Hello, everyone, and welcome back to SLAPcast. We are absolutely delighted that you've joined us for our very first episode covering the 2023-24 season. And holy shit, folks, is it going to be a big one. I'm your host, Gage, as usual. And before we get started with our various projections, conjectures, and interjections, I have to introduce you to the fellas, as always. We're going to start off with our beloved master of shapes, our tactical translator, and the Arsenal twat that I, for some reason, still allow to peddle his nonsense on this particular platform. Reese, welcome to Season 5.
Hello, I'm glad to be back.
Back to peddle some more nonsense,
Exactly.
undoubtedly. And of course, no introduction would be complete without bringing you SLAPcast's finest cultural aficionado, the vinyl vindicator, the record ruminator, the point proliferator, and our very own Croydon correspondent. Ethan, it's brilliant to have you back for another season.
It's good to be back. I'm ready to let this podcast go maybe 8 hours, just as long as we need to talk about everything.
I was telling the guys before the show that I have written down 8 pages of notes. So 1 hour per page of notes.
1 hour per page.
There you go. And finally, we cannot forget our master of matrimony, justiciar of jerseys, curator of questions, and this season's syndicated impartial voice. You know him as Josh. We know him as Josh too. And by the way, we are recording on his birthday. So happy birthday, dude. We're pleased to get to spend some time with you on your birthday. But I have to ask, Josh, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very, very excited to get started in the new season, I have to say. So before we get to the question of the day, which we will, of course, do, I do have a couple of clerical items to note for your interest. We are going to be back on YouTube, which is very thrilling. I will be putting all of that information out on social media on our various platforms. So if you're listening on Spotify or watching on Spotify, you have been since we got off YouTube and you're looking forward to us being back there, you can find us on YouTube again, SLAPcast, a Premier League podcast. You know where to find us. We also are pleased to introduce that we will have a website coming quite soon, slapcastpl.com. It's not up yet. Well, it is up, but you can't see anything on it yet. Expect some interesting things there, such as us posting episodes, clips, possibly some articles, some blogs. We'll see what happens there, but we have some exciting times in the future. Along with that, you can reach us by email if you ever need to. If you have a question for the show or you want to say that we're the worst podcast you've ever heard in your life, that's fine. You can do that by email, podcast@slapcastpl.com. Blah, blah, blah. Follow us on social media at SLAPcastPL, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Okay. Question of the day.
All right. So I have two. One, because one is like, they're both extremely easy ones, but one of them is extremely obvious. So we're going to start with the easy one. What are the boys drinking tonight? Because that's important. And I have something that I've had hunted down for weeks waiting for it to appear.
Uncharacteristically, I am drinking nothing.
I'll go next. I recently bought some passion fruit mix, and so I put some rum in there, mix that up, and it's really good. And I got a harp lager on standby. I wasn't going to drink, but we're doing the podcast. How could I not have a cheeky bev?
It's gotta be
and I got water. Brought to you by water.
We are sponsored by water, in case you're wondering. Yeah. Well, I'm not drinking a bev, unfortunately. I'm just drinking a little Body Armor, which we're not sponsored by, but you know,
Not yet.
Not yet. We're podcast@slapcastpl.com. Email us, let us know. No, but yeah, just little advanced hydration or whatever they call it.
Yeah, I'm drinking. So okay. Don't trash me for this. I saw it and was like, ooh, I really want to try this. I was so busy this summer and I was waiting for it to be in like the on base liquor store or like the gas station, and it never was. But then when I was done working and I was on a pass, finally had it in a Kroger. When I was with my wife, we were going out grocery shopping for a few different things. But it's Busch Light Peach. Now, Busch is not the best beer in the world. However, don't look at me like that. The peach is a nice little addition to it, and it makes it taste good. I feel like this is how Busch should always be. I feel like there should not be a Busch without a little bit of flavor attached to it. because the bush apple is amazing.
You want to walk that one
And I'm
back?
drinking water.
You heard
Nope,
it here first.
there's no
you
walking that
don't
one
want
back.
bush. You don't want a bush without a little bit of flavor.
And then Ethan's promptly guzzling in response.
Oh my gosh. I don't
And
drink
I got water because
Bush because
we
it's
have
got-
water because we drink responsibly in this house.
That's good. Can't forget the Bev. Can't forget the water. I was gonna say I don't
But
drink Bush.
main question.
Fuck.
Are you
We will never know. We will never know.
I see the-
Has-
Gosh.
I see those Bush cans that have the corn on the cob on them, and it looks freaking ridiculous. Makes me
Okay,
feel like
if
they're
it
corn
helps,
flavored.
the one with the corn on it is actually like a lot. They donate like a certain amount of the profit, which is Bush. They're not making shit off of that.
No, I know. It's just
They
funny.
donated to corn farmers who struggle because like all their money comes from subsidies. So
You're bush pilled.
it might be the cheapest beer in the store outside of like Natty Light, but it's not bad.
Main question now.
Anyway,
Oh,
this is our first podcast since. This is our first podcast since what, like May?
Yeah, end of May, end of last
something
season.
like that.
So it feels like a good opportunity to just like, how'd your summer go? What's new? What's going on in the fall? What's happening? What happened this summer? What's happening now? And what's going on in the next like month for everybody?
It's a good question.
Gage, go
It has
first.
been a time.
Jeez. Okay. I mean, I've just been working, man. I've been a busy guy. I had a busy summer. Lots of head down stuff at work. We had a couple big deadlines, so I was really just grinding through, but not a lot of interesting stuff to tell about. Well, I guess I got a girlfriend. That's kind of interesting, but so shout out
Let's
to Carolyn.
go!
Shout out to Carolyn when she inevitably listens to this. But yeah, that's about it for me. The other guys probably have more exciting stuff than I do. So you got a house, dude.
Will she listen to it?
Probably.
No.
Ethan,
Ethan?
dude, you got a house.
All right. Yeah. So we bought a zoo, but except of a zoo, it's a house, and we rented it. So we, Reese and I had lived in a college apartment, and we, since graduating, had to move out of it eventually. So we rented a house, Reese, myself, and our other friend Jacob. And I've just been moving a lot. I feel, even though I've been working out like all the time, I'm the most sore and tired I've ever been. But in that time between moving, I've been, trying to work out some more. I went traveling. I went and saw Crystal Palace live. And it was just like the real thing. I got to watch Mateta be shit. But just walk around, like Chicago and travel, and obviously, more moving. It was good though, doing some freelance work before I find a new job here. And I'm not going to say where I live now, but yeah, it's been fun. It's fun getting everything put together and ready for the next chapter of my life, I guess.
I'm gonna dox you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved in with Ethan, as he said. I moved in on Sunday, and that sucked because I had a lot of furniture that I had to bring over, but everything is moved. Not everything is unpacked, but we're here now.
Characteristically, there is a box behind you in the frame, actually.
Yes, this one's a fan, and that are my diploma.
Uh-huh. The
And a
big
frame.
man.
Nice.
I think I had started working when we did the end of season wrap up, but obviously I've been working now full time for it's August now, so basically 2 months. And it's going good. I have responsibilities now with my job. It's not just training all the time.
Yeah, that's nice, right? All right, Josh.
All right, birthday boy.
It's been the craziest busy summer. So it started off honeymoon, Boston. It
Yeah, you
was
got married.
we were here for the marriage
He was
part,
married
though,
last
right?
time we were, yeah. Last time we had a
Yeah,
pod, he was married.
because the last day of the season was the
Okay, that's
Sunday
right.
after the
That's
wedding.
right.
So we went to Boston. Great vacation, okay honeymoon. I'm gonna fix that in the spring. I'm taking her to the Caribbean or Hawaii. So, um, and I'm gonna pay for that because I started my job. Went on active duty in June. I worked. I think it was like 45 or 46 straight days. The first like half of that was two different jobs. Bad, not don't recommend. Like it's great, but stupid busy for a while, was like out of sync for a lot. So if my predictions are awful, I have an excuse again this summer.
Listen, I think all of ours are going to be awful. This
Yeah.
is by
Yeah.
far the worst I've ever felt about
Yeah,
predictions.
100%.
But yeah, I've been doing a little bit of travel ish when I can. I haven't been really doing a whole lot the past 2 weeks. I've had my job finished, so I haven't had a whole lot to do. So I been to Louisville and Cincinnati. I went to a Reds game and saw the Cincinnati Bengals practice in their training camp. Yeah, Monday. And then might go to Pittsburgh tomorrow. That's still in flow. It's like a 5.5 hour drive. So the wife is like, that's probably not a good idea. But I'm like, but it's cool though, and I can. So we'll see. Probably won't do it, but we'll see what happens. And then on Saturday, drive back to Texas. Monday, drive to Alabama, and then on the 16th, we're signing. We already signed for the house. We're getting our first house. All of the movers are getting there. It's like a full sprint then. A little bit more travel. My dad is helping us move, so we're taking him to the airport, and then we're going to go down to Destin while we're down there and do like 2 days in Destin, and then finish up our moving stuff. So it's going to be crazy, and like starting a new school, it's going to be wild. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be crazy, but it's going to be like a good crazy, like new adventure. Finally done doing long distance, so it'll be a good time.
I'm very happy for you, but it'll be sad once you leave Texas.
Dad is going to be very sad, but the boys are going to have to make a trip. That's the biggest
Absolutely.
key.
I mean, if you say so, you know.
I
The
couldn't
Florida
help but
beach-
notice that you did not mention you were going to be hanging out with the boys on Sunday. I can't help but notice that you might have missed that particular item on your itinerary.
6:30 on Sunday. Probably going to get torchies for
live
them,
action
so
meetup.
hit me up with the orders.
There you go.
Yes, yeah, that's going to be awesome. Sunday is going to be crazy. So we only have one day. She's been doing some of her goodbyes, but I have like one day to say bye to people, and I'm just not going to get everybody. So it's gonna be interesting. But I'll be back for Thanksgiving and maybe Christmas. We haven't decided what we're doing for Christmas yet. We'll know when we
That's
get
a few
a little
months
bit
away.
closer. But oh yeah, so yeah, that's what's going on. That lot of crazy stuff, but it's a good time. It's a good little chunk of time. A lot of new stuff happened.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like I have done not too much this summer, but I've forgotten how long ago we've done a podcast. So a lot has happened since then.
It's been a very long time indeed. But it's good
Yeah.
to be back.
Good to be back.
All right, let us bring an end to the question of the day section and move on to the main event, that which you have all been waiting for, undoubtedly, that which you tuned in for at the very beginning. Allow me to set the stage here quickly before we get going. A new dawn emerges, and with it, another clean slate, another palette of hope, and another year of battling for the Premier League. Old rivalries are made anew, and those once loved may now be lost. Mauricio Pochettino. A new shadow clouds the game as the oil barons of the Middle East have borne their teeth at the integrity of what is admittedly an already unprincipled industry at best. So it is under these pretenses, of course, that we set the stage for our 20 challengers who we will be ranking top to bottom in this episode. All of that culminates in what I'm sure the guys will agree is one of the most difficult Premier League seasons to predict in recent memory. So strap yourselves in for what I'm sure is going to be 3 or so hours of the worst takes imaginable. And prepare for us to be so wrong at the end of the season. That's what I would say, because it's going to happen inevitably. Let's actually start off before we get through our 1 to 20s with the preseason SLAP awards, which mirror those awards that we give out at the end of the season. Except right now we have no idea what we're talking about. So we're going to try our best to predict the awards that we will give out at the end of the season and see how it goes. So the first roundtable prediction that I want from everyone is an easy one. I'm going to go for player of the season. Everyone put in your predictions for player of the season. I'll start with Reese.
I'm going with Odegaard, my boy.
He was my
I
player of the
think,
season at the end of last year, so
Yeah, and I really wanted to pick him last year, but I just couldn't. I couldn't not pick Holland, but I'm going with my instinct this time. I think we're going to have another good year. I think Odegaard has just been phenomenal the past few years, especially after getting the captain's armband. So I'm expecting a lot from him this year.
Ethan.
Default pick. I'm just gonna go with Holland. Odegaard definitely gonna be up there for me, but he's a beast and he's so young. How could you not pick him?
Josh.
I didn't know if you were going to go.
No.
Holland. I don't see it being anyone else.
I'm like the guy that doesn't vote McDavid for Hart, and I'm never going to pick Holland as player of the season just because it like wears me out. So I'm going to go with
And
kind of a left. Yeah. I'm going to go with for Galatasaray. I'm going to go with a left field pick of Mohamed Salah. Actually, I think he's going to have a bounce back season. Okay. I think Liverpool as a whole are going to have a bounce back season this year. So I'm going to go with a somewhat outside shout of Mohamed Salah. So, all right, we will start again in the same order. We'll just go around the table in the same order every time. Let's go signing of the summer.
Okay. Let's get the Arsenal boys out of the way. I'm going Declan Rice. I know it's easy to pick for me because he's the most expensive signing of the summer, I think. But I just think the term is thrown around, but he is a Rolls-Royce player. He's just phenomenal, which is hilarious for me to say because when he first emerged on the scene, I think out of all of us, I had the least hope with him as a player. I remember saying on the podcast, oh, he's overrated, blah, blah, blah. And then he scored his first goal in the Premier League against us. And now we're signing him years later. And I think he is a great player. And he's a big personality as well, like big leadership qualities. The way it clicks in my mind, and I'm hoping it has the same effect as it's when Liverpool signed Van Dijk. Now, I'm not saying he's going to have the same exact effect. I feel like he is that kind of quality player for us that is just inherently, by existing, bringing us up another level.
Yeah, I agree that Rice is going to be great for y'all. I knew you were going to pick Rice, so I just didn't. I picked someone else just in case. I went for Gvardiol from Man City. I think that the one thing about Manchester City is that their attack already probably the best in the league, and so they just keep bringing in the players that will cover the areas that they needed to improve on.
Sorry, the Wi-Fi, just to clarify, if I have awkward pauses, the Wi-Fi is a little sketchy. So if there's awkward pauses, I don't know if anybody's finishing their sentences all the time. I'm going to go with Declan Rice. I think he's going to be a perfect shoe-in and be better than Partey was. So I
guess I'm just going to be a Liverpool meat writer this time because I'm actually going to give my top signing of the summer to Alexis McAllister so far. I think I really appreciated his performance last season for Brighton and at the World Cup for Argentina. And I think one of the things that Liverpool was really lacking in their midfield was what I would call industrial creativity. Because I think while Liverpool's midfield is one of industry, I would say a lot of the players are very hardworking, workmanlike, that kind of thing. A lot of them didn't have the creative aspects that they've been missing for a long time. And that's something that everyone talks about in their midfield. And I think McAllister is someone who is industrious enough that he still fits into the Liverpool system, but he just adds that extra bit of creative flair to their attacking patterns, and he'll arrive late in the box and possibly take set pieces for them, although they have a few candidates for that. So I think he actually might end up being a really good signing. So that's my my vote for signing of the summer. We'll move on now to breakout star of the season.
Okay, I said I was done with Arsenal players. I have one more. I have two answers for this one because I picked another Arsenal player and I felt bad about it, so I picked two players. The first one, and I'm going to say it, feel free to crucify me. However, I'm on the Arteta train and I see the vision, and I think Kai Havertz is going to have his first good season in the Premier League. Listen, I know what you're thinking. I've been watching our preseason matches very closely, specifically with Havertz. And this new Xhaka position for him, I think, is going to fit him perfectly. And that's all I'm going to say.
Who are the preseason games against?
United, Barcelona,
Okay, fair.
and then some other players, some other teams that were not as good. But the other player I wrote down is João Pedro. I think I was impressed with him the last time he was in the Premier League, the very few times he played. And I think for Brighton and their system, I think he's going to just be that goal scorer that they've needed for a long time.
Sure. I'll get more into it when we get down the list, but I'm really expecting a lot from Aston Villa this season, and I've gone for Ollie Watkins / Diaby because they've looked pretty good in preseason. So, immediately once they brought in Diaby, he's been like hitting the ground running immediately, scoring in every game and stuff like that. So I think they'll work well together. So I'll go with like a combo there.
So I'm taking this one on a limb because I also had to do them last minute, but I'm taking the breakout star. I think Saka is going to take another step this season where he is like out and out like top 2, top 3 winger at like minimum in the Prem. I think he's going to have like an Ian Robin, Eden Hazard-esque season. I think he's about to be really, really, really good and awful to play against every more than he already was.
I am going to go with, although now that Reese mentions it, I don't know how much game time he's going to get actually, but I'm going to go for Evan Ferguson at Brighton as well. I think he's a youngster who's gotten some minutes in the past and looked really good. And I think technically he's just one of these guys that has it. He kind of, just his pure drive and technicality kind of reminds me a little bit of Harry Kane, like not necessarily stylistically, but just the way that his aura, if I dare to use that word, he just kind of has that. He has it, I don't know how to describe it, but he has that intangible.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my choice for that one. Okay. Now the next category was one that always gets asked. Is it a player or a club? So this season we've just decided to do both, to, ixnay any of that. And Josh, if you didn't, that's fine. But, to ixnay any of the confusion. So surprise of the season. Now that'll be club and player. Obviously they don't have to be connected in any way. So Reese, go ahead and,
okay, I'll give my player first. I've got Ezzy. I think he's going to have to step it up big time this year now that Zaha is gone. And I think he's going to. I think he's going to do it successfully. And I think he's going to be – he had a good season for you last year, but I think he's going to just improve upon that and just help y'all finish the season out. Oh, team. The team I've gone for is Burnley. I think this is kind of a layup, to be honest, because they're newly promoted, but they are already known for playing really pretty football. And previously, I won't give spoilers, but when I was first thinking of predictions, I didn't know what to do with them because I didn't think their squad was very good, to be completely honest. And they have recently made some transfers that I find very interesting. So I think they will be pretty fun to watch this year.
I already mentioned them a second ago, but just the way they finished with under Unai Emery at the end of the season last year. They got a good spot. I think Villa are going to do great again if they continue this momentum and keep bringing in players that immediately impact the squad. But away from that, for player, I've gone Szoboszlai, who just signed for Liverpool. And I say that because, I was looking for this graph that I saw because there was there's a lot of talk about Olise leaving in the summer. And I remember seeing him in this graph. And he's at the top, but right next to him is Szoboszlai. And it's very specific, high quality shot creators. But, Liverpool have been needing that midfielder for so long because they've got the attack, they've got the defense. They just need someone in the middle to link the play. So I think he'll have a big part in the season.
My club is going to be Fulham without Mitrovic. I think that without Mitrovic, they have the potential to be not great because of how much he carried them at points, especially in the middle of the season. I think they're actually going to do, I think they did not sign a lot, but they signed enough and they signed in the right places that I think they're going to steady the ship. I think they might stabilize themselves a little bit this season. And then
Mitrovic is still at the club for now. There's still lots of rumors, but
yeah,
there's a chance he doesn't go. The club does not want to sell.
There's a chance, but it's looking like he's going to go, right?
Yeah. I am also operating under the assumption that he's leaving, but
yeah.
The Jimenez signing seems very telling.
Yeah. But player wise, I think Darwin Nunez is going to have a massive bounce back season and surprise a lot of people because with the amount of sitters that he missed last season, I think, and this is his first summer as a professional player to not be playing in the summer because with Colombia not being the best team in the world, he has played at the national team level for a long time for someone his age. I think he took the summer because you can see already in some of their preseason games, he looks a little bit more clinical and a little bit just better on the ball and a little bit more mature. So I think he's going to have a much better season, and I think he's going to be the player that they wanted him and needed him to be last season.
Is he Colombian?
He's Uruguayan. I was going to get on him too.
That's what I thought. I was like, there's no way.
I was like, he's actually never played a game for Colombia, so it's crazy that you bring that up.
Same continent.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, well, it's funny because both of you have actually, or Josh and Reese, but cock cam from Josh. My answer got poached from both of you because once again, I've decided that Liverpool is the best team in history and picked another Liverpool player, even though I did not even do that on purpose. Like you guys will see in my predictions, like I didn't even do that on purpose necessarily, but yeah, Darwin Nunez is my surprise, and I've gone for Burnley as my surprise. I meant to say player and club, but I said surprise twice. So, okay, let's move on to the next category that's very similar, basically the exact opposite, which is letdown of the season. So think exact opposite of what we just decided. Again, player and club. So
my player was in one of y'all's pleasant surprise. And it's purely off of vibes because I think he is a good player. However, I have a feeling in my gut and in my heart that Szoboszlai is going to just have a tough first season. I think in the future, he's going to be very good for them, but I think he's just going to struggle to transition to the Premier League. So he is my letdown. And part of that is because of the expectations. I think a lot of people, including Ethan, are expecting him to do pretty well. And I just have a feeling he's not going to live up to it his first year.
SpongeBob. I can't get over that.
Yeah, exactly.
Called him SpongeBob on Twitter.
And then the team I've gone for is Chelsea. For similar reasons, I would personally be let down. I'd be pretty excited if they did poorly. But there's a lot of expectations surrounding Chelsea right now with the new manager and how many players they've sold and how many players they've brought in. But there is just a lot of turnover from players who have been playing consistently for them. And I think this transition is going to be a little tough and they're not going to quite perform as high as some other people are expecting them to.
I can't stop laughing at SpongeBob.
SpongeBob. Dude, it's so funny.
So I'll mention my player first. I went with Mount. just because United signed him for a stinky load of money for someone who had a really bad season previously. So, maybe he'll fit with United. It's kind of hard to say right now, just because I think it's a pretty different system. But I just don't think probably not for that money. But letdown of the season, I've gone for West Ham because getting this big chunk of money for Rice, selling Skamaka, probably most likely will sell Paqueta. And they're looking at the wrong players right now. At least I think they are with McTominay.
If they buy Harry
and
Maguire, they're getting
The
relegated.
McTominay and Maguire combo is crazy.
Yeah. It's just it's weird because I feel like they need to be focusing on other areas, but they just haven't signed anybody this window right now. So it's like having all this money and not signing anybody is pretty insane. So the fact that they have this money and not do anything with it and probably have a not good season is pretty much a letdown.
I have United as my letdown club just because I feel like every season, just because United's like probably like top 5 biggest club in the world, there's always just so much hype around. Oh my God, they're going to be amazing. I don't know. I don't think they're going to do what they're supposed to be. We'll get into where I have them when we get into predictions, but I just don't think they're going to be that good. And then my letdown player, I can't stand him. It's Mudryk. He was signed in January, so he can still be a letdown because it's not a year away. Yeah, I'm just going to keep him there because I hate him. Like, I love that video. I saw something on Twitter. So it was like, oh my God, this crossfield pass from Reese James. He takes a touch, and then within like 3 seconds, he gets tackled, and the other team is like counterattacking the other way. I do think Reese James is going to be a very good captain, though. I think it suits him well.
Until he gets injured.
Somebody on Twitter said it's a huge workload for whoever the vice captain is, which is Ben Chilwell, by the way. I looked.
Oh God,
yeah.
Who's the third captain?
I have these not listed. That's all they listed was the first 2. So they may just never have a captain. We'll see. But I also won't get into too much of why I've chosen the teams that I've chosen or team and player that I've chosen because it kind of has a big bearing, or not a big bearing, but it has a bearing on my predictions. My letdown of the season, and I had this before the announcement that just came out as well, but I've gone with Wolves. I think Wolves are going to be a massive letdown this season. As I said, Julian Lopetegui just got sacked yesterday, 6 days before the campaign is meant to begin. They are looking at a replacement who I think is a good appointment in Gary O'Neill, but they're just uninspiring. And we'll talk about some of the reasons whenever we come to them in my predictions. But if you look at their list of transfer outgoings this summer, it's a huge list. And I will list them off when we get to them in the predictions, but it's a ridiculous list. So yeah. And then as far as players, I have decided to go with Rasmus Højlund. I think for a 70 million euro fee or whatever it was that they paid for him, I understand that he's young, has bag loads of potential, and did really well in a physical league in Serie A, scoring 9 goals and 20 starts. I get it. But is he really their number 1 option at number 9? I feel like he's going to fall prey to the pressure of being the expected top guy for Man United. And I think my prediction is that he'll score less than 5 goals the entire season. So
wow.
Yeah. Watch, he'll get 5 in the first 2 games because I said that. But actually he'll get 5 in the second game because it's against Spurs. So and we're gonna win every game 6-5. So anyway. Now the very final slap award, and this is more of a slap stinker, to be honest, is first manager to be sacked. And no, you may not take Julian Lopetegui because the season has not officially started yet. So
I pick this manager every year. I'm waiting for it to happen. David Moyes.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing too.
Did we all pick David Moyes?
I said Moyes - Hecking.
Yes.
for Sheffield United.
Fair enough. All right. It is officially time for the main event. Now that the awards are out of the way, it's time to get down and dirty and talk about our 1 through 20. So I've decided to group these into kind of a few notable groups. So we've got the relegation scrap, the mid-table group, the fight for Europe, and the Champions League places. Those are going to be our big groups. And then we can kind of just go through naturally. Obviously, we won't go necessarily. We'll just throw out some teams and say, oh, where did we place this team or whatever. In fact, you know what? Let's start with Wolves, who I think are going to be in the relegation scrap. And the reason I'm starting with them actually is because I have them finishing 20th.
Wow. I think that's very bold.
I agree it's bold, but
I think
let me
that's
give
probably
you my
wrong,
reasoning. Let me
but-
give you my reasoning. As I mentioned beforehand, listen to this list of outgoing transfers. Ruben Neves, João Moutinho, Adama Traore, Connor Cody, Nathan Collins, and Raul Jimenez. That is their entire identity.
Yeah.
Their club over the past 5 years has legitimately been defined by those players. Maybe not Nathan Collins, but the other five especially. The ownership, the boardroom is in complete disarray, as is demonstrated by the fact that Lopetegui's decided to walk away, and the holding company that owns them is in something close to $100 billion in debt or something like that. So the club could easily go into administration during the season. They did make one big signing, one big splash in Mateus Cunha from RB Leipzig, who will take some time to adjust, but I think will ultimately be a big player. And they made another big splash by getting Matt Doherty back on a free. So we'll Spurs legend. We'll have to see how he copes back in the Premier League after not a lot of play time in the last few years. But yeah, as I mentioned, Gary O'Neill is predicted to take over as manager, which I think is a good appointment. He's fearless, kind of will take it to you with style, but I don't know. I feel like every season I always think that it's never a newly promoted side that finishes bottom. And so for that reason, I've decided to go with Wolves in 20th.
I agree that they're going to struggle, but I just think inherently their squad is significantly better than the other teams I have below them. And I think Gary O'Neill is a good appointment as well. I do have them 17th, so very close, but I don't think they're going to be relegated. I don't think they're going to be bottom.
I have them 19th. So I agree with you. I think there's so much turmoil. And last year, I think they were lucky that other teams under them underperformed like Leeds and Leicester. I think they were lucky to stay up last year.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I
agree with a lot of what you're saying, Gage. I am with Reese in this fact that I do think that there are teams worse than Wolves, even though it seems like that everything that's going on within the club right now is in shambles. But I feel like there's still some players in their squad, even though most of it left is still better than some of the other teams. So
Sure.
I have them 16th.
The issue with Wolves is that they remind me a lot of Everton the past few years, who have just continued to stay up because their squad is better.
Sure. Someone else throw out who they have bottom, and we'll go from there.
Luton.
West Ham.
Whoa.
Okay. Let's go to West Ham. That's
let's
way
start
more
with West
interesting.
Ham. Yeah.
I just think I saw it firsthand what no signings and will do to a club. The worst part about it is no signings and selling one of your best players and it's looking like one of your best creative players is going out as well. We were lucky enough to have Madison last season and almost stay afloat. I think they're going to have a rough going.
I was going to put them in the relegation zone, and I actually moved West Ham around a lot the past few days, and I don't think their signings have been great. They haven't gone through yet, technically, but they are signing some players. Like, it's going to happen. And that being James Ward-Prowse, McTominay, and Maguire, most likely, which I don't think are great signings. But again, I think signing some players who will try at least to fill the players that they have lost in Declan Rice, and improve on some other spots, I guess. I don't think Maguire's an improvement, to be honest, but I think bringing in some new players, and again, their squad just inherently being better than the teams I have below them, will get them to 16th. But again, the teams, West Ham and Wolves 16th, 17th, I would not be surprised to see them fall into the relegation zone. They were teams that I wanted to put there and just couldn't bring myself to, except at one point I did have West Ham there, but they've been really changing things around recently.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Ethan, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that it is, concerning with the amount of money that they did get and they're not spending. Maybe not.
I will
making
say the Declan Rice deal is
It's over a
it's
number of
misleading
years, right?
because it's over a number of years. So they only received 35 million this year.
But they did get a lot of money from Skamaka, I think, as well. It's
Only
over
15.
what? I thought it was like 30 something.
They
And
bought
po-
him for 30 something.
No, I thought they sold him for that much too.
Let me
I
get on
think
it.
they're
But
selling for 15.
I think at the very least they're allegedly going to get 70 for Paketa, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
I think it's
um,
going to end up being more like 80,
which is
maybe
Yeah.
pushing more.
But anyway, I think it is very concerning right now. I think it would be so stupid if they didn't sign anybody. So surely they will be signing some more players before the window closes in September. So that's why
I think Ward Prowse has gotten the here we go treatment.
he did. Yeah.
And I think the Maguire and McTominay have gotten the here we go soon.
Ethan is actually closer to being right on Skamaka. They sold him for 25 million. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Is that with add-ons though? Or is there no
I'm not
add-ons?
sure. That's just the reported fee on Transfermarkt. So I'm not sure what the structure of the deal is, but that's what I'm seeing. So maybe with add-ons it's up to 30. But either way, I'm not sure. But yeah, I actually also have them 16th, Reese, and I actually just moved them while y'all were talking. I moved them down. I had them a little higher, but y'all swayed me to move them a little further down. At one point I actually had them in the relegation zone as well because I've moved the predictions around so much. But Josh, I could totally get on board with what you're saying. Let me throw another wrinkle in too, by the way, that this might this is honestly what I remembered and influenced me to move them down again. They have Europe.
Yeah.
They have midweek fixtures in the Europa Mickey Mouse League. Or no, they're in the Europa League, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
I
fucked.
forgot they had that, but yes, that was part. I knew there was some method to my madness.
You know what? I'm moving them. We've got a live
change.
I'm moving them into 18.
I'm a trendsetter.
Oh, he's moving him down. I moved him into 16th.
Let's go.
I kind of just feel like I moved him to
I think
16th.
Europe is too much for him to handle.
Oh man, should I move him down? Maybe I should move him to 18.
I also would love for them to get relegated. So.
I would too. You know what? I'm changing it.
Also, yeah,
I'm looking for a reason for me to put them there.
I'm gonna put him 19th. I'm gonna put him 19th because I'm switching him for another team that I had.
We've got the
19th
live
before.
changes.
I'm putting West Ham 19th.
Never before been done.
This would be the season for it, dude, because it's so impossible to call. It's just ridiculous. Well, that's good for the team that I just moved because they went out of the relegation zone. But okay. Let's talk about another team that I'm gonna guess some of you guys have getting relegated. Sheffield United. I would be surprised if someone else didn't have them getting relegated.
19th.
I've got them 18th. So
15th.
Oh,
15th.
backing them to survive. I mean, they did survive one season last time, so
I'm gonna be honest. The middle one, I was like, I barely kept up with the big transfers while I was working this summer. I did not keep up with the low one, so I'm probably gonna get fucked on that one. But I have them 15th. I think last season they showed enough in the championship that I think there's a chance that if they can keep some pieces together through the end of the transfer window, that they can stable the ship again in the Prem. But
if one of those pieces is Sander Berge, they have sold him. So, just by the way,
I know he got sold, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So I'll give you I have all the transfers listed out or all the notable transfers listed out for all the clubs. So just to have them on hand, I'll give you the notable transfers. So the only notable signing they made so far is Austin Trusty at center back from Arsenal, the United States international. I don't know whether or not he'll start. I presume he would because they spent a decent fee on him.
They signed someone today.
Oh, did they? I'm obviously missed that.
It was not anyone I've ever heard of though. He might have
Okay.
been from the Brazilian league or something.
The outgoings are the big ones because, like you said, Sander Berge, key piece in the midfield. Ilman and Jai, who was their key creator in their promotion campaign, has left for Marseille, abandoning the club. He didn't even show up to preseason training, and he was their key man last season. So that's going to be a big blow for them. And stalwart at center back, Jack O'Connell, has been released. Of course, he was a staple of their overlapping center backs under Chris Wilder, and he's been released as well. So we won't be seeing him. I give them points for the inevitable sort of pluckiness and togetherness that will come from playing at Bremel Lane and, just having a squad that stabilized in the championship and is going to come up together. But I do have them going down in 18th. Unfortunately, I don't think Paul Heckingbottom is quite the innovative mind that Chris Wilder was that enabled him to get a top half finish in their first season back last time. So for that reason, yeah, I'm going to have them go down as well.
I had them 19th. We didn't really talk about Luton too much.
We didn't, yeah.
I think a lot of people are having them go down just because, it was a very freak way of them getting promoted. They deserved it. I obviously did, but it's just a very weird scenario, small town, small stadium, signing a lot of their key players from the promotional season, but, not really building on top of that. So signed Ross Barkley today. Before recording this, which I think is a pretty decent signing, but
I have them finishing 17th because the last time Ross Barkley was like a larger piece and was very good was when he was at Villa and played very good the first few match weeks before he had an injury that took him out in and out for the rest of the season. I think he's going to make a huge. I also just think there's going to be some magic behind Luton, just with the stadium and with everything surrounding them. Also, I think I'm an idiot. Did I say West Ham bottom?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
I have them 19th. I overshot a little bit.
Who did you have bottom? Sheffield United or?
No, I had Sheffield 15th because I'm
that's
stupid.
right. That's right. Yeah. Okay. We'll come back to who you have bottom then because I'm curious. But anyway, yeah, 17th. I had Luton as well. I have them staying up. Mostly, yeah, like Josh said, because of the charm, the kind of aspect of Kenilworth Road, the fact that they have very few facilities there. They have, they're going to have a great atmosphere. They're going to have a lot of charm. So I think it's going to be a very difficult place for teams to go. They're going to get results at home against teams that they shouldn't be beating, that kind of thing. So the other thing is they're one of these clubs that does really good recruitment on the cheap, kind of like a Brentford or Brighton. They've been run really well since, they were in non-league less than a decade ago and they've made it to the Prem. So that should just tell you kind of how they're run at least. And by the way, fun fact, if Pelly Rudicompanzu scores a goal in the Premier League this season, he will become the first ever player to score a goal in all 4 professional English divisions, which is kind of neat. He's been starting for them ever since they were in League 2, and he's probably going to start for them in the Prem. So that's kind of neat. Kind of a cool little thing for them to have as well. So, okay, a brief recap.
Me thinking Luton. Oh.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I will say, I think if Luton do stay up, I do think they are going to finish bottom next season. If they do stay up,
Yeah.
I don't really think there's going to be much more than one season magic. And I think if they stay up, I think next season they might be one of the worst teams we might ever see. But
fair enough.
But weird prediction, but here we
It's kind of like what happened to Huddersfield. They finished 16th and then were one of the worst Premier League teams in history. Yeah, or Sheffield United, yeah. So, okay, just a quick recap. I had Wolves. Whoa, I almost said the wrong team because I changed. I had Wolves, West Ham, and Sheffield United going down. Reese, who you have going down?
Luton, Sheffield, and West Ham.
Ethan, who have you got again?
Luton, Sheffield, Nottingham Forest.
Okay, let's talk about Nottingham Forest then. This is a good segue.
Hold on, let me pull up who they've signed this season. I know they've kept Chris Wood on a permanent.
Yeah, they've also signed Anthony Ilonga. They've signed Matt Turner and Ola Aina, former Fulham right back.
That's a good signing. I feel like they've got that second season. We were just talking about a second ago if Luton stay up. I think it's that second season syndrome. I'm
I
not
think-
confident in their ability. They were they were uncertain on their manager towards the end of the season, but he was able to keep them up. I think we'll see more of that this season.
I think they're going to be excuse me. I think they're going to be right around there again. However, I do think they understood where they went wrong in the transfer window. And even though, yes, it did save them because, like, if somebody had a bad game, they could rotate, and they rotated so much last season. I think just with them only signing how many players? Four, and four like very good, like make sense signings, not just like trying to completely flip a squad from championship to prem. I think that's going to give them a little bit more stability than what they had last season. Because last season they were all over the place. I think they beat us 4-0, and then the next game, I don't remember what they did, but then they got smashed. So I think they're going to have a little bit more stability. I also think Matt Turner is going to be a very good signing for them in long term. I think that's going to help stabilize, especially the back, because they do have some young pieces in defense. I think it'll be a good little signing for him. I think they'll stay up for at least the next season.
I'll wait to say where I have them until we're close to that position, but
Yeah.
I just have to stick by my guns from last season. I said last season, if they stay up, they will do quite a bit better this year, because last year was a little bit of an experiment, signing 20 plus players or whatever it
29
was.
players.
Almost 30 players, but now they stayed up. They had the full season plus the summer to figure out a starting 11, figure out everything else, get the players gelling, figure out tactics, because you almost can't do tactics when you're rotating the whole squad every week, right? So now
Yeah.
I'm imagining all this coming together. I think why am I blanking on his name? Their manager,
Steve Cooper.
Steve Cooper. I think Steve Cooper is a very competent manager. I think tactically as well, he's not bad at all. He's like pretty good. He just wasn't really able to implement it last year because he had so many players. He was constantly rotating. So I just have to stick by what I said last year, and I have them quite a bit higher actually.
I do as well. And I think one of the reasons why is something that Reese mentioned, is just having that preseason together with all those new signings from last season. It's going to have a very consolidating effect. I think the squad is going to finally, get some consistency. Ideally, Steve Cooper will have a preferred 11, which I think is something I'd be surprised if they ever had the same 11 last season when they started a game. So I think having the consistent, at least knowing 9 or 10 of those places are going to be the same every week, I think it's just going to be a huge, huge boost to them going forward. So yeah, I've also got them a bit higher, and I can wait to say where I have them until we get there. But I think that covers all of our relegation spots except
No,
for
Josh.
Josh,
Nope.
who
Yeah,
I know
so
who you have 20th. It's just
I don't think it's the most questionable decision ever, just because I think it has to happen at some point. They have to get rid of it. I have Everton bottom because fuck them. But also I just I don't really see yes, they have a few pieces that seem like they're going to be a little bit more fit this season and help them out a little bit more. But there's something about the club where it's just something. I also think just for the general success of Everton, when they get relegated, I'll be fine. I will not hate them for the rest of my life. Probably not true, but once they get relegated, I think it will be enough of a culture shock to shift how they do business, because they're not going to be able to do business the same way where they sign these washed up players where they hope do well, and they do well enough to keep them afloat. And I think it's done this season. I think they're going to struggle a lot this season.
I mean, you know how much I hate
Man, I
Everton.
hope you're right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think they have survived too long now that I think they are beyond struggling for
they're like a
relegation.
roach.
I do not think it will happen again for a long time, unfortunately.
I actually agreed with Josh originally, because the team I was talking about that I moved out of the relegation zone in favor of West Ham just a minute ago was actually Everton. So I originally had them finishing 19th, and maybe that'll come back to bite me if Josh is right. But I've moved them up because I wanted to keep the other two the same. I've actually ended up moving them up to 16th, which I could see happening, but I think they're going to be in the conversation for relegation the entire season. I'll tell you why, because their marquee signing so far has been Ashley Young, which is an interesting decision by them on a free. So they've lost a few players as well. No one too crazy. They've lost Tom Davis Yerry Mina, Andros Townsend, and Connor Cody. Those are all kind of fringe area players, maybe other than Connor Cody, who got a lot of minutes last season. But the only reason I don't have them getting relegated anymore, other than the fact that I wanted to change it out, is because I have a decent amount of faith in Sean Dyche as a manager as well.
Yeah, I had them 17th. I feel like it's just going to be one of those seasons where they do it again. They randomly finish out the season so strong, and it gets annoying to where they stay up in 17th. We also have to consider the fact that they're doing the World Cup rule now, where they add on that amount of time at the end.
Yes.
So that was their bread and butter last season, I was like, as soon as I saw that they were going to do that, I was like, I know they're going to win so many points just from that span of time at the end. So,
Reese.
In 17th, I have Bournemouth.
Okay.
I just don't think they've improved their squad enough, and I think getting rid of O'Neill is going to be a bad idea. I think they've got a couple players coming in, notably Justin Kluivert, but he's very unknown, and he was kind of a wonder kid way long ago, and then just disappeared off the edge of the world. And I don't really think he's going to have the effect they want him to, and I think they're just going to do kind of poorly.
I think they're gonna do. I think similar to what I said about Forest, I think they signed enough to keep the ship going in the right direction. I think Justin Kluivert as well. I think he's gonna. Yes, he's not like the wonder kid everybody played with on FIFA, but I do think he's going to add a little bit of more speed and a little bit of more than what they have had in the past. I think he's going to add just a little bit more than what they've been able to do, because it's been very direct and very straightforward, like through the middle play for them the past 2 seasons. But I think they signed enough to kind of stabilize the defense in the midfield just a little bit. I have them 14th.
I actually have them 13th. I have a little bit more faith in them because, obviously, Justin Kluivert is still, got to see if he makes that transition to the Premier League. But they've also made a few other signings with bigger fees that I think, I feel like, the fee doesn't always represent the player, but, they're not going to be some, championship player or something like that. So I think they'll they also did lose a few players that were in the league with them last year. Like, I know a big player of theirs for the longest time was Jefferson Lerma, who ended up joining my team, Crystal Palace. So I don't think they'll necessarily be worrying too much about relegation, but I obviously don't think they're going to be, pushing for top half or something like that.
Yeah, I actually think Ethan nailed it. I have them 13th as well. I have a lot more faith in them. While I think getting rid of Gary O'Neill was a strange decision, I think part of the reason they did is because this new ownership group that they have that's headed by Vegas Golden Knights owner Bill Foley, by the way, Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights. They're really not afraid to spend money, as Ethan was mentioning. They've spent some big fees on a couple players, Justin Kluivert being one, Romain Favre, Milos Kerkez, and Max Aarons, by the way, today, who I saw got the Here We Go, the old Norwich right back. So yeah, and then they've signed a goalkeeper on loan from Inter as well. Just a few, unproven Premier League players, but they might be enough to give them the edge. I also have looked into a little bit about their new manager, Andoni Iraola, and I think he will maintain that front foot tactic and fearless identity that Gary O'Neill translated through the team in possession. And they haven't been afraid to attack. A lot of their preseason games have been very high scoring. So I think part of the reason for the change is that Bill Foley's group took over mid-season, and this is their first season to start off as the full ownership group in the board, and they want to really impress their sort of stamp on the club. And I think they've decided to go with Iraola as their guy, and that's the start of a new era for them as well. And then I think, all of that recruitment kind of started at the end of last season when they signed a few people like Ouattara, who scored a number of goals for them, Zabarnyi at center back, the young Ukrainian prospect, and Marco Senesi as well. So those are some of the players that will be making a difference for them. By the way, David Brooks has been back in preseason. He started every game for them and scored a number of goals. So good to see that he's back and healthy and on the pitch. So I think he'll make a difference for them as well. And that's got to be a morale booster too, to have a guy come back from cancer and start putting the ball in the back of the net. I think that's a huge thing that you can rally around. So couple of feel good things for Bournemouth for me. So yeah, like Ethan, I've got them up towards the top. So okay. Let's see where to go next. Does anyone have another team down at the bottom that they would like to talk about?
I mean, not necessarily bottom, but I have someone 15th that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, let's
yet.
go 15th.
Okay. I went with Burnley.
Okay.
And then it's easy to talk about them because they were in the Premier League not too long ago, immediately coming back up and kind of changing the way they were. So I don't think they're immediately going to get relegated, but I still think it's going to take time to bring the squad back together. Bringing some players who are used to the Premier League back to the Premier League. I know they've got like the likes of Obafemi in the team now, who was great in the Championship, but we never really saw too much of him in the Premier League. So, and then Vincent Kompany, obviously, he's got the passion, the emotion as a good coach, but we'll see how he does in the Premier League as a coach.
I've got them 14th, so kind of close by.
I have them 13th. I think, I don't know, I'm seeing like us playing like last season, like even though we are playing like at Burton and Coventry, seeing what passion can do to a team that is like in and around the relegation zone, and like the passion that Vincent Kompany is going to bring to his managerial style to Burnley in the Prem. I think it's going to make a huge difference, especially with how they were last season. I think we're going to see a little bit of a different Burnley than we're used to versus the Sean Dyche versus Vincent Kompany Burnley. But I think they're going to do 13th. Is my prediction.
I might be the crazy one. This is maybe one of my most out-of-pocket predictions yet, but I have them finishing 10th. I have them finishing in the top half. I am fully on board with Kompany ball. I think they walked the Championship. There's always a team that ends up surprising us right out of the gates, newly promoted. They've made some really smart additions, by the way. Couple of Premier League proven defenders, a couple of unproven Bundesliga talents that are coming in, the likes of Dara O'Shea, who's Premier League proven, Jordan Beyer from the Bundesliga, who's going to be a good option. Also, a random shout out to Nathan Redmond, who they've signed on a free. Not that I think he's going to make the biggest difference ever, but I don't know. I think you are probably not going to see a single name on the Burnley team sheet that you recognize. I think they have completely revolutionized their squad and their way of playing, their way of thinking, and I think Kompany is a huge reason for that, and I'm a believer. I'm on the Kompany train, so I have them finishing in the top half. Call me crazy, but
crazy.
So, okay. I am now going to move on to who I have finishing 15th, and Ethan, you might want to close your ears at this time.
No, I mean, I've had to go through this myself.
Because I have got Crystal Palace finishing 15th. I am very much questioning the decision to keep Roy on as manager. I know he did good things at the end of last season, but I think I wrote this down as a joke. I'm really looking forward to the start of the 2046-47 Premier League season when 99-year-old Roy Hodgson prepares for his 9th stint in charge of the club and 53-year-old Jeffrey Schlupp starts in midfield.
I'm excited for 20,000 or whatever when Roy is like his head is in a bowl of or like a ice cube or something like that, and he's managing this club.
He's like Megamind's fish.
Yeah,
like in
a million years from now, he's still gonna be here. It'll be like a projection of him or something like that.
Yeah, like a hologram. AI.
You just say I knew he was gonna stay.
You did say that from the very beginning. Yeah. So, okay, look, I'm going to turn it over to Ethan since it's obviously his club that we're talking about. I also really have to use the bathroom, so that's part of the reason why I'm going to do that.
You always go to the bathroom when I talk about Crystal Palace.
Well, I'm going to... Wait, I can't. Goodbye.
How about we talk about Tottenham Hotspur instead of Crystal Palace while he's gone? No, I was playing. Yeah, it's going to be a weird season for sure. In the whole time, almost 10 years that I've been a Palace fan, this is the first season we'll have no Zaha in the team, our talisman, our guy who's been our top scorer mostly every season. So it's very easy to think the worst. I think we'll. I'm kind of close to where Gage put us. I put us a little bit higher just because I think we still have some business to do in the window. I think we have favorable matches coming up at the beginning, very different from last season. I've heard he's injured, so he'll take time, but Mateus Franja or França is going to be. I think he's going to be good. Obviously, not feeling Zaha's absence, but I think a lot of players will have to step up. And it was very, very easy to see that in the game that I went and saw in Chicago when we were playing Milaneros, or however you pronounce their name, the team from Colombia, who I think won the league in Colombia. We just didn't look good at all. So obviously, preseason, hands up, it's just a fake game, but it's good to see your team play good in the preseason. So when they're not playing good, it's easy to feel bad about it. So this season will be the teller if we can survive life without Zaha. We had a span of games at the end where it seemed like we could, because there was like a 3-game win streak without him, but we'll see.
When I was making predictions, I expected myself to put y'all lower than I did.
Yeah, me too.
I ended up putting y'all 13th. Kind of just because I think, despite losing Zaha, the teams below are just worse, and I just think that's how it is.
Yeah, that's why. That's why
I will say, if the rumors about Elise's supposed release clause are true, and he ends up joining City or Chelsea or whoever, that would impact my prediction quite a bit. So I think if you lose both Zaha and Elise, that's just I think that's just poorly run at that point. I think y'all cannot let it happen. I don't know how. You need to either, I mean, the release clause, I don't know the full details, but maybe, new contract to negotiate that out, or whatever needs to be done. But I just think y'all cannot let it happen.
Yeah, I'm of that opinion as well. I think they're gonna have plenty of games without him anyway, because he's injured. So we're gonna have to deal with it without him as well. But we definitely can't let that happen. Even though it's been very back and forth about whether or not he has a release clause. It definitely looks like he does have one now. It just depends on what the specifics are of that. So I'm really hoping we can still sign a few more players. That would ease my mind a little bit. But I went, Reese said, teams under. He put us as high as he did because the teams under us were worse. I gave us a little bit more credit just because I think some players will definitely step up, as he ended up being our top scorer last season, even though he spent half of the games like on the bench because Vieira just never played him. And so I ended up putting us 11th. I know a lot of people you default us to 12th just because that's where we like to sit, especially last season when we spent a few months just in 12th. But I have other reasons for why teams below us finished below us. So I will talk about them when we get there.
I just switched y'all to 12th. I had y'all 11th, but I switched y'all to 12th. So I just moved Palace from 11th to 12th because I think Reese made a decent argument. I think you are better than the teams below, but I think it's a very slippery slope and can get really dangerous really fast. But I don't think y'all are in as much danger as the other teams around you from 11th or 10th to 15th. I do think Eze is finally going to have a breakout because I think Hodgson is going to trust him. I think last stint with Hodgson, because he was there when he
was Hodgson signing.
Was a young player and wasn't quite ready yet. And I think Zaha not being there is a good thing in the long term. I think it's going to take some draw away from just funneling everything through one player. I think it's just going to help spread the wealth a little bit and help diversify the team a little bit. I think y'all are in a good spot for the season to stay where you are, but I don't think y'all did enough to progress forward very much.
That's fair.
I can see y'all progressing up to 10th if Eze really goes well. I think y'all can push up to 10th, but
I agree with what you're saying, and I don't think this is going to be a season where we're going to try and push for Europe or a top 10 spot. I definitely think that we're, like you said, we're going to have to diversify a little bit in this fact that more players are going to have to step up in his absence. But I think in this fact is that I think we're going to see some players do a little bit better than what we're used to them seeing. Um, I shit on him all the time. I think IU is going to have the ball more, which sometimes he does good. I saw a compilation of the season before COVID, and that was the most goals he had ever scored at Palace. So might see him step up. Maybe Metet or Edouard will step up. So we'll see. It's hard to tell at this season or at this point of the right before the season starts when there's still time in the transfer window.
Yeah, I was also going to point out that Ethan, you're finally free of Luca and the midfield. All three of them are finally gone after this season's transfer window.
Yeah, and I mean it stinks because for a good chunk of me becoming a Palace fan, Luca was probably one of my favorite players just because of how solid he was in the midfield and how great he was at set pieces. But he just had such a terrible drop off, and I got tired of watching him, trot around the field like not that fast. So I wish him the best, but yeah, no, I'm glad that's over. I'm tired of seeing him on the field.
And then how do you feel about signing Jefferson Lerma as well? Do you feel that he's going to add a big boost to the midfield with the sort of fiery personality?
Yeah, I'm ready for that because I think it's a good combination of him and Doucouré. I kind of saw that in the Chicago, or when I went and saw them in Chicago, and Jefferson Lerma seems like a very good player to have alongside him because Czech is more cool, calm, and collected, and Jefferson's more fiery, and they're both good at winning the ball. And so I think if we have Eze playing alongside them in the midfield, I think they can immediately turn it into a counterattack and we can get a lot of goals through them.
One final question I had was just who do you think is going to start in goal? Do you think it'll go back to Gage or do you think Johnston will get a run in the team?
So Hodgson actually came out and this was like, I think media day not too long ago. It might've been yesterday, but he said that Guaita has been refusing to play.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like he hasn't been in training and he hasn't gone on preseason. So at the moment, it looks like Johnston is our number one, and the club might try and get rid of Guaita. It pains me because he always has a close relationship with fans, and I don't know what caused this, but I was wondering why Guaita wasn't getting more chances. But I mean Johnston looked good in preseason, so I'm fine with that. But it's just weird, so I don't know what's going on with that.
Maybe he wants to force a move.
I mean, probably, but it's just. I mean, he only got dropped like one game, so I don't know why he wanted to move. I thought
it may not just be about getting dropped. He might just want to play somewhere else. I kind of think he's missed his window, though, to be honest. I don't think he'll go to definitely in the Premier League. He's not going to go to another Premier League team.
No, he always said he wanted to go back to Spain.
Sorry, this I don't have anything to say. It's just a blurb. I have Everton 15th. I don't think I ever said where I had them, but
you think you got something else on Palace or?
No, I had a few that we missed that
we
already talked about. I have Wolves 16th. I might have mentioned that actually, but I'm different from y'all. I have West Ham 14th because I'm of the opinion that surely they have to sign somebody with that money. They can't just. It would look very questionable if they got all this money that they're getting if they sell Paquetá and not spend it on players. And then I kind of went, okay, this is 12th. Are we at like 12th right now?
We're at 12th. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I went for Brentford.
I did too.
Okay. I think the absence of, I'm struggling. Ivan Toney. Yeah. I think the absence of him is going to be monumental. And it's going to leave a huge hole in their team. They definitely have other players who will step up in his place, but he brought so many goals to that team, and so he's going to be gone for a good chunk of the season.
Yeah, so I also had Brentford 12th. I think the Ivan Toney thing is a big blow for sure, but then also I think they haven't been as active in the transfer market as I would have liked to have seen. They did end up buying Mark Flecken as the new goalkeeper. I think he's been highly rated so far for them in preseason, and he's a guy that the analytics really like, obviously. Nathan Collins at center back will recombine Burnley's relegation center back pairing from 21-22 of Ben Mee and Nathan Collins. So, I will say the center backs were probably one of the strongest areas of their season that year when they got relegated. I think part of their problem was that they just couldn't score, and couldn't create chances. But yeah, I don't know. I just have not been filled with faith in their attempts in the transfer market. I think they need to sign another forward. I acknowledge that they're one of the best counterattacking teams in the league, even without Ivan Toney, because of the likes of Brian Mbomo, Yohan Wissa, Kevin Shada, who's the new signing from January, who will come in as well. Those are all players that will be contributing to their counterattacking style. But for one thing, I just don't think they've done enough. So I've got them falling to 12th. Yeah.
I'll
Josh,
mention just because I've got them close. Oh, sorry, Josh, you go ahead.
I have them 11th. I have nothing else to add to it. Y'all covered pretty much everything for Brentford.
I've got them in 10th, so kind of close, but I have a little bit more faith in Buemo holding them over until Ivan Toney can come back later in the season. I'll mention my 12th place team. I've got Fulham in 12th. Now, Mitrovic probably leaving. He's currently there. I am operating on the assumption he's going to be gone, and I still have them 12th. And I think their squad is just pretty good. João Paulinho, fantastic last year. I think their defense wasn't amazing, but definitely wasn't bad by any means. They
and they have brought in Calvin Bassey from Ajax as well to shore that up. So
yeah.
He'll be in addition to the pairing of Ream and Adebayo.
I think a big thing with Fulham is going to be how Raul Jimenez performs, because he has not been very good since his injury, and obviously, understandably so. But it's also not uncommon. We've seen it with players before, who players will struggle for a couple of years, and then as soon as they get a transfer, they start playing well. And it's just like a change of scenery. It's just kind of what they need. It gives you a little bit of a confidence boost because this team wants you, right? Fulham wants him, despite him not playing Super Bowl the past few years. So I think if he can perform well, they could go even higher than 12th. But I just think their squad's still pretty good, and they've retained pretty much everyone from what I can think. All the notable names anyway, besides Mitrovic, who's most likely leaving.
All the outgoings were not super notable. So
yeah, I had them 10th, and at first when I was thinking about them, I thought, they're losing a lot of players, but they actually didn't really lose anybody. They're going to lose Mitrovic, who has been a big part of their club for the longest time. Probably, we'll see how that goes in the next month. But they still have a lot of their squad who did well with them last season. I think Paulinho has a small injury, so I don't know how long he's going to be out, but I think he'll be back soon, and they'll continue to turn away. So I have them 10th.
I had them 11th, so yeah, I don't have too much to add. What I will say is we talked about, does the Mitrovic gambit sucks? We found out last season that it didn't, but I think the Jimenez gambit and the Carlos Vinicius gambit might suck. So I think goal scoring is going to be one of their biggest problems this season. I have a mountain on my head of hair.
I have them 10th as well, and I already kind of talked about them in the beginning of the show, and y'all piggyback on what y'all said. In 9th, I have Villa, though, which I would imagine is not a far out. But I think they made a lot of very good signings. I think they kept a good core group together. I think the Tielemans signing for free I might be just because he was one of our players. I think that's a great signing for free. Like, even if he has a season like he did last season for free, that would be amazing. But I think when he's motivated and like under a manager who cares, like Unai Emery, and not Brendan Rodgers, I think it's a good place to be. And I think the Pau Torres and Diaby signings are going to be really good, and I think they're going to be very productive ones.
It's funny because I feel the exact same things that you just said, but I put them decently higher than you.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I don't really have anything to add. It's all positive things.
I think there's just too much quality ahead of them, and they feel like how we felt when we were finishing around like 6th, 7th, 8th. But there's just so much talent that I think it's going to be really hard to break through. Some of the teams are just better because they spend more money.
I will say they also haven't lost anyone other than Ashley Young, who maybe not the biggest loss ever for them. Or no, was he was at Villa, right? Or am I tripping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote him down without actually looking it up because thought that, but then yeah. Okay, so I am in agreement with Josh. Actually, I have them in ninth just purely because I think those teams above them are going to be better suited to what they need. Am I right in saying our top nines are all the same, just in different orders? Your top nine
Yes.
is everyone that we haven't talked about yet.
Yes. Let's backtrack for 1 second. I have Nottingham in 11th, by the way. I don't think I ever said.
Oh, you have them very high up.
Yeah, that's why I saved them for later.
Okay.
I don't really have anything to add. I kind of went on my spiel earlier, but I just think they've had time to gel now, and I think it's gonna come to fruition.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think the top nine, at least in terms of the teams that are there, kind of picks itself. I think basically all of the teams that have Europe and then Spurs and Chelsea are in the top nine. So I think that kind of just chooses itself a little bit. Yeah, I have Villa in ninth as well. And one of the contributing factors, which this is going to be a theme throughout the next couple of clubs for me, is that they have Europe. And I think that's going to be to their detriment, actually, because, yeah, it's the Conference League and they're going to be able to rotate and probably not take it super seriously at the beginning because they're going to be playing teams in the far reaches of outer space for a while. But I do think that travel wears on you. And I think, like, for the most part, they're probably at least going to take everyone from the squad on those trips. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like they would.
My response to that would be that West Ham won it last year and they finished very low.
Right, which is why, but that's why I have them ninth instead of like sixth or,
yeah,
seventh or whatever. But because I think Villa has a better team than West Ham for one thing, and a better manager. So, yeah, but either way, I'm assuming, I think I know who someone else has ninth. So could we go ahead and talk about Brighton? I'm going to say someone has Brighton ninth. Yeah, I figured it was you.
Yeah. This easily looks like I'm just having my Palace hat on or a Palace flag behind me, but it goes back to what Gage just said. I think, dealing with Europe, it's a good achievement. I wish it was my club, but just dealing with that and it's just going to be tough because it's like they brought in some attacking players to kind of help with the load of more games to play, but I think it's going to be rough on the defense, to be honest. So yeah, that's just why I have them. And I think the teams above this is the opposite of why I put teams higher than other teams at the bottom, because some are worse, but in the terms of in the top 10 I put some teams higher just because I think they're a little bit better.
Sure. Well, Reese, who do you have ninth? Let's go there. Let's go in order from now on, I'd say.
I have Chelsea in ninth. And this goes to what I was talking about with biggest disappointment or whatever the award was. I'm trying to remember.
Letdown of the season.
Letdown of the season. I think let me read you a list of their outgoings because they've looked all right in preseason. And I think Poch is promising. Some of their signings, was it Nico Jackson or?
Yeah, Nico Jackson.
Nico Jackson looks good. But just let me read you this list. Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, Mateo Kovacic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Kalidou Koulibaly, Koulibaly, Ethan Ampadu, whatever. Kristen Pulisic, Edouard Mendy, Aubameyang, Cesar Azpilicueta, and N'Golo Kante.
And I'm going to add 2 loans departing, João Felix and Dennis Zakaria too.
Yes. So that is just a lot of turnover. I think maybe too much. I think change is good, but it's kind of like when Forrest bought 1 billion players and did poorly because of it. I think no matter how promising the manager looks, no matter how good your new signings look, I think when you sell that many players, there's just going to be a bit of a transition.
Possibly. Do you want us to argue with you now or save it for when we have them?
Argue against him.
Okay. The reason, for one thing, I obviously have faith in Judas Iscariot as a manager because he essentially did the same thing at Spurs because when he first came in, there was a bomb squad. Okay, it wasn't quite as many as you just listed off, but it was 9 or 10 players that got sold. And he had so much transition and put so much faith in the younger players. Like, I think, for example, something that I was shocked by that looks like it's going to be the case. Like, I think Carney Chukwuemeka is going to start for them at 10 at the number 10 position because A, they sold all their central midfielders, and B, Pochettino just loves to instill faith in a young player. And I think it may not work out for them at the very beginning, but I think the longer the season goes, the better their results are going to be, in my opinion. So I have them way higher than 9th. I won't say where, but I have them way higher than 9th.
I mean, I have them in 7th. So not too far off Reese.
I have
agree
them
with
8th.
Reese.
I think they're gonna have I think they're gonna have the opposite. I think they're gonna struggle a lot the first half of the season and be like down in like almost the teens, and then Poch is gonna square them away the second half of the season. They're gonna climb back up to 8th.
The thing with me and Chelsea, and I'm not doubting, Pochettino as a manager. I think he's a great manager. But they've had great managers over the years and struggled. Granted, they've unloaded a lot of their deadwood, but they've always had a decent manager in charge, and they've always struggled in the sense of, working out what that manager wants to do / moving on really fast. So it's a weird time. I think they will do better than they did last season, but it's transitional for sure.
I honestly just think that they're a lot better than where they finished last season. I think on paper, they're so much better than where they finished last season. And I think it'd be insane to say otherwise. I know they had a ton of transition and a ton of turnover and all that kind of stuff, but like, I think last time they finished 10th, they won the league the next season. I'm not saying they're going to win the league. I'm not saying they're going to win the league, but I'm just saying last time they finished 10th and everyone thought they were going to be dog shit the next season, they won the league. So, I also think a huge advantage that they have against all these teams in this area, including fighting for the top 4, is the fact that they have no Europe. They have 1 game a week for the entire season, apart from the Cubs. But I think that's so huge. It's the opposite of why I picked like Villa and a couple other teams to be a little lower. Is I think that them not having Europe is such a huge bonus. So I'll just drop the bomba right now. I have them finishing 4th. So I think they're going to get Champions League football this season. So
I'm not going to say that's a surprise because I've seen a few people putting Chelsea there. And that's a good point that they don't have to worry about European competition, but I think about all the other teams and how they did last season, and I just think they're going to continue. I don't think there's going to be much drop off.
I have another bomba at 8th, so y'all just wait.
I think Gage always has 1 or 2 stinkers in him, so I'll let you have it.
Who had the best predictions at the end of last season, though? I'm just going to point that out. But I do have another bomba at 8th, which might be worse. You guys might think is worse, but we're not going to get to it yet.
It's going to be like Arsenal.
No, it's not Arsenal.
I thought it was for a second. I was like, that kind of would have been crazy.
That would be an Oppenheimer level bomb.
Reese is gonna ravage
It was going to be
remove his
that
clothes.
picture from Oppenheimer where he's like all
He's
Right.
naked. Oh, I thought you were talking about the one where he's naked in front of the.
on the
Yeah.
chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ethan, that face.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what we do.
No, it's not Arsenal. Don't worry. I would just like to point out. Let's actually. Well, I said we were going to go in order. We're kind of not going in order.
Oh
But-
man.
I
Let's.
kind of like the way we're doing it, where we just like say out because it like knocks it out. It kind of.
We just discussed the team. Yeah, that was kind of the vision.
Yeah, I think
but-
I think it flows better because then like we can talk about a team and it doesn't get like lost within itself.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go back to Brighton a little bit because I have them finishing 7th, and I think we didn't quite talk about them enough. Of the
I do as
group,
well.
yeah, of the group of teams that find themselves newly in Europe, I think they're actually the best positioned out of that group, and that should give you a little clue to who my bomba is in 8th. But
I see.
yeah, so I think that
is wild.
I think that Brighton are the best setup. I think they have the best depth. I think they have the best manager. I think they of these 3 teams that we're talking about, and the keen listeners among us have figured out who that team is. But I think De Zerbi's the best manager. I think they have the deepest squad, in spite of the fact that they lost McAllister and are probably going to lose Moises Caicedo, although it does look like Chelsea have moved on to other targets. They're linked with Tyler Adams recently, so I think that is kind of someone who would be in that role. I don't know if they would still sign Caicedo or not, but I don't know. I just think they've made a lot of smart additions. João Pedro, like Reese talked about, James Milner to bring some leadership. Dahoud from Dortmund, I think, is a great signing in midfield on a free, by the way, which is a great piece of business. Brought in a new goalkeeper in Verbruggen, who is able to play out from the back like De Zerbi would like, start counterattacks. So I just think they have the best squad or the best equipped squad to deal with Europe out of those three teams, to be completely honest.
And that's
So
why I have them in 4th place.
wow. There's
I
a
hate
bomba.
you.
I'm a Brighton meat writer.
I know you because you send those tweets all the time, and I lose my damn mind.
Sorry about it.
And if they sign Kudus though,
I know.
I
know.
I actually don't agree with what you're saying about them having the most equipped squad for this. I think. Do you really think like Lewis Dunk is going to be able to play Premier League and Europa League?
I will concede to the
Here's
fact
what
that
I'll say.
center back is their worst position. I agree, but
I will say, because I didn't mention it because I was waiting to go in order, but I think doing this way is fine. When you mentioned that their defense was going to struggle because they're playing in Europe, I think their style of play being so possession heavy, and I think the competition they'll be facing until the later stages is going to allow their defense to coast. I think they're going to dominate games, and their defense is not going to have to do that much.
they did bring in a center back in Igor, who I know nothing about, but he is a center back, and I trust Brighton's recruitment, so they have at least some bolstering there.
But when you're playing possession-based games, how often can you continue that momentum when you're playing it so much, so often? They're going to get tired.
I mean, they did it all year last year. I mean, they didn't have Europe, but they did do it for the full season.
I mean, like I said, I take into account. I mean, the only reason I don't have them higher, honestly, is because I think they will get tired because of Europe. I mean, that's really the only reason I don't have them higher. I think they could be in a situation kind of like Leicester for a long time, where they were in, sorry to dig deep in the wound, but where they were, they're going to hover around the top 4, kind of hover around Europe, and then at the end of the season they're going to kind of peter out a little bit and start to lose games. That's just kind of where I would take it. But
Sure.
I do take your point on Lewis Dunk.
That was my
going to be able to
thought
play
process,
every single game.
Yeah. That was my thought process as well. Like, I think they're going to do very good, and then they're going to get into the knockout rounds, and it's going to kill them.
Yeah.
I had Villa.
I have them
8th.
7th as well, but
Okay, yeah, Ethan,
I had
Villa
them
8th.
Yeah.
I had
I
them
mentioned
7th.
them in my at the beginning when we were going through all of our awards. I moved them around a little bit. I thought maybe they could get 7th, but then it's all considering the teams around them. And I think that's why I'm so unsure of my predictions this season. It's just because you think of a team and then you immediately compare them to the teams around them and stuff like that. And that's where it gets tricky. So I'm just sticking with 8th. Did they get 8th last season?
No, Villa finished 7th last season.
7th? Okay.
Yeah.
I think they will stay 7th or 8th. But I put 8th down.
I put them in 7th. I think the Europe argument is real for them because they don't quite play the same possession. Like the things I said about Brighton, where I think they're going to kind of coast in Europe for most of it because of the way they play, I don't really think applied to Villa. I think they are going to take a little bit of a toll, but I think they've improved. So because of that, I think they stay exactly where they were, because it's like they finished 7th, they improved the squad. Oh, I want to place them higher. They have Europe, put them back down to 7. I think they're going to end up in the same spot.
Reese, which one of us do you want to drop our bombs of who we have in 8th first?
I'll go first because I think yours is more of a bomb than mine, to be completely honest.
Yeah, it probably is, but
I've got Tottenham in 8th. And I kind of have already mentioned this to y'all. I think 8th is actually fine. I think it's kind of what you want because you're in this rebuild stage. I think you've done some great business. I think James Madison's a great signing. I think you've totally revamped the defense, which is absolutely needed. But on that note, it's now a very, very young and Premier League unproven defense. New goalie as well. So there's a lot of changes happening, and I think you will just spend a year, finish in 8th, but see improvement, especially with the identity. I think you'll get your identity back.
Yeah.
And then, in a year or two, start pushing again for top 4. I think it's going to be a very similar path to that Arsenal took, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much tend to agree on all fronts. I think now let's be clear. I have Spurs in 6, so I'm not necessarily saying anything absolutely nuts. Like, I don't think I think we might like briefly flirt with the top 4 in just a small way, but then I think by the end the quality will just outpace us. I also think we are going to, I joked about this earlier, but I'm serious. I honestly think every game this season for us is going to be 4-3, 5-4, like some kind of ridiculous scoreline like that, because the Postecoglou system is just a high line. It's hell for leather football. It's very little defense, narrow fullbacks, just lots of ways for teams to exploit us whenever we lose the ball. But I think I'm okay with that after the absolute hell on earth that I've been through in the last 4 years with this team. And if we finish 8th and I enjoy watching us, I will be 100% fine with that, to be honest. The only reason I have us above Brighton and the other team is because I again think one of the biggest detriments to Spurs in recent years has been the fact that the squad wasn't deep enough to rotate for Europe. And now that we don't have to have that, I mean, I sound like a broken record with this Europe thing, but seriously, like all the fixture congestion and now the fact that the Premier League games are going to be 20 minutes longer, like I think
That is true. Yeah.
I think it's a bigger issue now than it ever has been because there's going to be so much time added on in games. So for that reason, I'm taking it more strongly into consideration than I would have in years past. And so for the fact that we don't have Europe, I think that gives us an advantage over Villa, Brighton, Newcastle. I'll just say it. I think it gives us an advantage over those teams. So yeah, as far as the actual tactics and breakdown of the Postecoglou appointment, because we haven't had time to talk about that since it happened. I won't go too crazy on the tactics. I think we could save that for a game week, but I do really look forward to him revitalizing the careers of some people who have been down and out at Spurs for a while. I'm mostly talking about Yves Bissouma. I'm mostly talking about Dan Kulusevski, who had a really down season last year. I'm mostly talking about Son Heung-min, who had a really down season last year. So I think, especially just with the tactical roles and how well each of those players fit the role that they're going to be playing, especially Yves Bissouma, I think this is going to be the Bissouma season. In fact, I almost should have put him as my pleasant surprise, because he is going to make a huge difference, I think. He practically didn't exist last season under Conte, and I think having him in the team alongside Madison, alongside Bentancur later, but whoever it ends up being on the left, I think it'll be Sarr at the beginning, maybe Lo Celso, but probably Sarr. I think that midfield trio is just going to be a breath of fresh air for the team. Should we talk about the Kane stuff? I guess we should talk about the Kane stuff.
It looks like he's staying, so it's like, what's there to talk about, really?
It does look like, yeah, I mean, it does look like he's staying. I mostly just want to point out the fact that Bayern have behaved in an embarrassing manner, and the German media are a bunch of
Bayern have
idiots.
gotten whipped this transfer window, let me just say.
They have.
They lost out on Rice.
Walker. They're about to lose
lost
out
on Walker. I think they were also in for David Raya. They lost out on Raya. They lost out potentially on Kane. There's somebody else that I'm thinking of that they lost out on that joined someone else. I don't even remember, but they're just so used to not get any of their transfers.
They're so used to bullying people in the Bundesliga that their media is starting to throw a fit when other teams actually take a stand against them. This guy did y'all see this guy that fucking brought a Harry Kane Bayern shirt to the press conference, and he's now been kicked out of all press conferences for the future, dude. And he has a Harry Kane in his Twitter header and all this stuff, and they're not even going to sign him. Like,
why do people buy jerseys of players who haven't joined?
And he's a journalist.
At the preseason Arsenal game I was at, there was a guy wearing a Coutinho Arsenal jersey.
That's wild. That's insane.
That's
I know.
So bad.
I couldn't believe I saw it and I was like, there's no way.
That's horrible.
I did not think you were going to say that.
I just can't believe he brought a jersey of a player who does not play for that club to a press conference with the manager. It's just so unheard of. I just can't believe it happened. I also love the way Postecoglou just dunked on him.
Yeah.
I just love it. I'm on Postecoglou. I think I said at the beginning of the season that we had to get this appointment right, and boy, did we. I think this guy's the real deal. He's got me. His charm offensive has worked on me. Just the way he's such a Chad in press conferences and like the attacking football and the fact that he screamed at Højbjerg for punting a ball into orbit during preseason. All of these things are just points in his favor, dude. So I'm so excited to watch Spurs this season, and it's the first time I've said that in 1 million centuries.
You probably
And-
yelled at him because it happens a lot.
I know, but and all white kit for the Premier League, which I'm just I've always wanted us to go all white in the Premier League. I think it's so classy, and for the first time ever, we're doing it. So I'm so excited. Just everything about this season excites me. Even if we finish 14th, I don't care as long as I enjoy watching the club. So
Maybe I'll finish at 6th. I think no Europe is going to have a huge difference. I think y'all are going to do really good this season.
okay, let's
Really-
talk about. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Newcastle. I would assume that some of y'all might have them in the Champions League. I'm going to guess Reese doesn't. So
No, I
Reese,
do.
you. Wow. Do all of y'all have them in the Champions League?
Yes.
4th.
Okay. Well, I was going to have
would-
someone else go first because I just
No,
talked a bunch.
We know you're not too fond of them.
No, it's not even that I'm not too fond of them. I think they've done a really good job in terms of building it slow, taking it easy, putting faith in the players that they have and all that stuff. Like as far as their process, I think they've actually done a really
In
good job.
terms of table position.
True. I think again, Europe for one thing, they are probably the least deep squad in the top 9, I think, personally. I mean, if you look at a lot of their benches from last season, I mean, like Jacob Murphy's still getting on the bench for them. Like they do not have a
And
deep
he's
wasn't
playing
awful.
really well.
He wasn't awful.
I don't disagree, but just, in comparison to some of the people that are on the bench for Villa, I don't know. I think they have the worst depth out of those teams. Maybe that's a crazy take. I mean, having them 8th is a crazy take, I acknowledge, but I just think it's going to be come back to earth because at points last season, I thought they were fake. I think out of the top 9, they have the worst manager. Well, Postecoglou, I'm going to exclude him from that because I don't really know how he's going to fare in the Premier League, but out of the top 9, other than Postecoglou, I think they have the worst manager. And I include Emery in that, honestly. I think I would rather have Emery than Eddie Howe at this point. Maybe now I'm going back and forth. I don't know. Here's the thing. Their biggest signing, their marquee signing of the window, does not want to be there. I think that's another huge point. The guy has not smiled since he landed in Newcastle.
I mean, okay, I understand that, but also surely he's a professional and he's going to do his job.
But you never know how much that 1 or 2% is going to affect him. Because he did not want to leave Milan and he had to leave because they're bankrupt. I think I don't know. I think it's a big problem. Of course, we're talking about Sandro Tonali in case anyone's not aware. Harvey Barnes is an okay signing. I know he
looked
was
good in
good
the
for
preseason.
Leicester. Yeah,
I think it's actually a great signing.
I
See, it's I just
think it's
disagree with you on
amazing
everything.
Because he's going to be amazing when he's not the
Yeah.
only forward focus who can score a goal.
That's exactly what I think too. I think in Newcastle he's going to just be even better than he was at Leicester.
And the way they play too, he fits into when he has a fullback who actually goes forward and has the ability to go forward, or he can invert and have someone going on the outside, which he did not have for the majority of last season. I think he's going to have an amazing season. I'm going to guess 15 goals.
Okay.
I
Well,
agree.
I guess
He was at 11 last season. He was our top goal scorer.
Fair enough. I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just think I also think this is the team I was talking about earlier. The fact that they are not going to be able to waste 30 minutes a game and piss the other team off to no end is going to be detrimental to them. I think they're going to concede a lot of late goals this season too.
Yeah. I think regarding that aspect, because I get it. I was never mad last year. I was so happy to be an Arsenal fan until that Newcastle game. I was furious. It made me upset.
It's their main tactic. It's literally their main
But here's the
tactic.
thing. I actually disagree that it's their main tactic. I spent some time seeing what people were saying on Twitter, not just the biased Arsenal people.
Yeah.
Right? And the general Newcastle consensus, and I know they're also biased, but it made me watch them differently in their other games, was we don't normally play like this. It's just because, Arsenal or even Tottenham are very good. And so we are playing differently. So like outside of probably 4 teams, I don't really think they played like that. I don't think that was their main tactic. And I think now they have the confidence to play these top teams and not resort to that tactic. So I actually don't think it's going to be that big of an issue.
Possibly. I mean, look, I could be wrong. It's probably my boldest prediction, and there's a few bold ones on here, but I don't know. I just don't have faith in them to. The depth is my other big concern about Europe, because they're going to have to unless they just completely bin off the Champions League, which I can't imagine they're going to do. They're going to have to play a full squad twice a week, and they don't have enough players to, they're not Man City. They don't have enough players to completely cycle through, the players that they have. And they haven't been in Europe so long that, are they in pot 4, pot 3 for the draw? They're going to be up against some big boys in the group. So, they're going to have to take this seriously. And I think that's going to be detrimental to them in the Premier League. And I don't know. I mean, I think teams are just going to have an easier time against them, find them out. I don't know, whatever you want to say. I mean, I was the guy at the end of last season that said there's no way they were going to finish in the Champions League. Even up to 4 games left, I said they wouldn't finish in the Champions League last season. And they did. And so they proved me wrong there. Maybe they'll prove me wrong again, but I just still have an inkling that they might be kind of fake for now. Now, if they prove me wrong again, I'll be right. Or I'll be.
I don't have anything to add, but I've got them in 3rd.
I have them in 4th.
4th.
I have United in 5th, just because I think
do too.
I think they wasted a rather large amount of money on Mason Mount, like Ethan already said. But I think I don't know if Onana was the right answer. He's missed a lot of regular with his suspension, not last year, but the year before. He's just missed so much time. And for a keeper, that is such an important thing, is regular game time. I just don't think I don't know. I just don't think the development's going to be as far for the players. I think the ceiling on a lot of their players is not as high as they want it to be. I think Ten Hag's style is just not going to suit them as well. I think they're going to have a very similar season to what they did last year in the first half, where they're just struggling a lot.
I have them in 6th. So I generally agree. I'm a United hater as well. How Gage feels about Newcastle is how I feel about United. I think they're fake.
I don't even hate Newcastle that much. That's the thing.
No, not with you hating them. I think United's fake is what I mean.
Okay.
I know they beat us in preseason, so it's funny I'm saying that, but
yeah, but
it's preseason. We had 4 players who had never played together before, so it's how much can you really gather? But
my main point on them, and this is actually what I wrote down, is what the fuck are they doing in the market?
I don't know.
What are they doing? To Josh's point, Onana hasn't played regular football. He also let one in from the halfway line a couple games ago in preseason, which is just a disaster. Can't pass out with his feet. Can't stop.
There's a plethora of compilations of Onana just being crap at passing out.
Yeah, I know. There was so much De Gea hate going around on United Twitter for so long. I think they're going to have a new enemy very quickly.
We got Ramsdale and Raya. How do you say his last name? Raya or
Raya. I've always heard Raya.
For less than they got Onana combined.
By the way, fuck Brentford, dude. They could have had 35 million from Spurs, and now they have a $3 million loan fee. So eat shit. Vicario's better. That's all. But
I haven't heard eat shit in so long.
But yeah, that was my main thing. I already talked about Højlund a little bit earlier. I was going to do a whole shtick on him here, but I kind of did it earlier when I did the letdown thing, so I won't talk about that much. Mount for 64 million, go fuck yourself. I mean, that's literally one of the what is that?
I am not going to say anything because we spent a lot of money on Kai Havertz, but I
have the same talking point written down for Kai Havertz. So
the difference is that they're going to use Mason Mount the exact same way that he was playing at Chelsea.
Yeah,
and I think Arteta has a vision.
Yeah, I do not think.
And I'm sucking on his teat, and I'm a meat rider. My one note that I have written down for United is The main factor is Holland or Hojland. I don't know how to say it.
Hoyland.
Hoyland.
Hoyland, not Holland.
Holland.
I mean, he's
Like Walmart brand Holland. dude.
literally
He
he's from
switched.
Denmark. His name like kind of sounds similar.
Well, Erling Holland is not from Denmark. I think you just made that clear.
No, I
But
know. I'm just saying
Scandinavian. Yeah,
Scandinavian.
just wanted to make that clear.
Holland.
I know. Let me make it clear. I know he's from Norway.
Okay, so let's move on to I think the last team that Reese has missing out on the Champions League.
Liverpool.
Thank you, Garrett Jamie Carragher.
On one hand, I think my initial reaction is like, oh, they're back. Like they're going to be so good.
They're back.
But also, like I mentioned, I think Szoboszlai is going to have a weird first
SpongeBob.
season. I think SpongeBob is going to have a weird first season. I think for really no reason at all. I think it's kind of be the Darwin Nunez effect. He's just going to have a weird first year. I also think I have this pulled up as well. They also have a lot of turnover. They've lost Fabinho, they've lost Jordan Henderson. Those are both two players that were either starting regularly or were big leaders in the club. Firmino's gone, Keita's gone, whatever. James Milner is gone, and then Carvalho and Oxlade-Chamberlain are gone, which those aren't as notable. But I think their signings are good. They have not gotten a replacement DM. It looks like they may get Romeo Lavia, but
Yeah,
currently they have not gotten a replacement DM.
they lost a lot of leadership. That's what I was going to bring up.
They did.
A lot of leadership went out the door with that.
No, they lost a lot of leadership, but they also lost a lot of dead weight. I think as important as a leader as I'm not saying Jordan Henderson is the main piece of dead weight, but as important as him and James Milner, as important as they were leadership wise, I think they carried a rather large amount of dead weight there.
I think that was only true about Milner. I see where you're coming from, but he was mostly a utility player. I think that was only true of Hendo at the very end. I think for the majority of his time there, he
but they had like the wherewithal to like recognize it now and not like because lots of players get stronger. I do think the Fabinho loss is going to be a little detrimental because but I do think it's going to open the way for a lot of their youngsters. I think they're going to have a lot of players have like breakout seasons. I have them finishing third. I think they're going to have a bounce back season.
Me too.
I could fully see them finishing higher. I don't know. Something about it. I think they need one more year before they're fully back.
The thing for me was that I'll talk about it again. Their midfield was the thing that I think is why they didn't do as good as they did last season. I would give it their attack didn't do as well either, but I think with the addition of McAllister, who, World Cup winner and Premier League proven, and, Szoboszlai, or SpongeBob, I think opposite of Reese, I think he's a good chance creator. I think, it'll open up for more goals.
I do think he's a good chance creator for the record.
I want to add a point about this constant. I mean, I think for the last couple prediction seasons, the last couple season premieres, we talked about, is this Klopp's last season? Is he coming to the end of his time at Liverpool? I think this season, I haven't seen almost anyone talking about that. And I think there's something to be said about that. But part of me almost thinks that because no one's talking about it, like maybe this is the last season, that there's nothing analytical or even empirical about that at all. I just wonder if that's the case. I get a sort of almost like a last dance feeling about this a little bit for Klopp. Like he's assembling his midfield Avengers. Like he's bringing back together this midfield, which has been the biggest issue for them for so long. And I don't know, he's going to give it one more go to win the Premier League and then maybe walk away or go take the Germany job or something. So I don't know. I just kind of get that sense about this season a little bit. I definitely think they're back. I think last season was definitely a blip on the radar. And if you look at their results towards the end of the season, yeah, they had a few sputters here and there, but ever since the 7-0 at United, like I think they were, I know they lost the game after that, I think, but ever since then, they were very consistent, a lot better putting together results. Because if you remember, like in December, like around Christmas, they were in 9th or like 10th. They were very low down the table. So they really put together some results to string up and get to, what did they finish, 5th or 6th? I can't remember, but yeah, so they finished fifth. I mean, they almost got to the Champions League at the very end. Like they pushed Newcastle all the way, and I think I just think they're back. I think SpongeBob and McAllister are going to be great additions to the midfield, dude. Every time I think about that, even at work, if I'm not thinking about anything and I think of SpongeBob, I just start laughing. But I will admit I let the Spurs hat influence this prediction a little bit, but I have them finishing second.
I think three of us will have first the same. I think one person might not.
Is going to have first different. Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about it now. Let's talk about Arsenal.
Well, let's wait.
Okay. Well, who else is there to talk about?
Have y'all? Well, I want to make sure. Have y'all gone through your third and fourth yet?
Yeah, Newcastle fourth, Liverpool third.
Well, remember I had Chelsea fourth, and
I had Liverpool third, and
Newcastle fourth.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't gone through my third yet because
it's Arsenal.
Because it's Arsenal.
All right, let's talk about Arsenal.
You're up, big man.
Well, I've got us finishing first. But hear me out. That is very optimistic. I think more realistically, I would put a second, but at some point, I have to just not pick City.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I pick them every year. And I think it's rightly so. They're fantastic. But I think we've improved a lot. We pushed them very far last year, fell off at the end. But I think we've improved all the areas we needed to. We've added so much depth because not only have we brought in quite a few players, we brought in quite a few players that can play more than one position. I think every signing, Declan Rice can play both as an advanced 8 and as a 6. Timber can play in midfield and as a center back and as a right back and as a left back. He's been playing left back the past few preseason games. I understand the doubts about Havertz. I just see the vision. I think so far I've been impressed with him in this Jacques role. And in our last game, he played as striker because Jesus is injured. And he adds another quality to what we have. He missed a couple chances, which I think it's easy to say, oh, he's missing chances. That's just like at Chelsea. But he adds a target man, which we don't have. All of our strikers are not very tall. And there was multiple times, because we love to play off from the back. There was multiple times in this last preseason game where we just decided to bypass their press completely and just launch the ball to Havertz. And he played hold-up man, and it worked. And so I think that's another dimension. So we've evolved tactically. We've added improvements in everywhere that was needed. We've added depth as well. And now the vibes of the team are good. And that is like absolutely massive. The team, all of the Arsenal fans are happy with last year. No one is outraged. No one's mad. So everything is culminating. And so I think if we are going to win the league, it needs to be now or next year, like basically within the next few years. The other reason why I picked us is because now we're at the point where our expectation is to win the league. So no, I'm not going to say, we don't win the league. I don't think Arteta gets sacked or anything, but the expectation now is to win the league. That's what the board wants. That's what the fans want. I think that's what everyone in the club wants, including manager, including players. So that's kind of why I put us in first. I think second is respectable. I think even third could happen. I think the competition has really ramped up this year, but I do have faith in the team. I definitely don't think we've gotten worse since last year.
No, I don't think y'all have gotten worse at all. I just think everyone else has gotten better.
The one thing I'll give you is that Gundogan has left City, and he was very important in that.
And Mahrez.
Yeah, I feel like not as much though. But I can't get past that. They literally have a literal killer up front who broke the record in his first season.
Yeah, I think that's true. The other thing I'll note though about City is that I agree with Gage that last year will probably be his highest goal tally.
Yeah.
In the Premier.
I think he will do the same amount.
I also think last year, let me backtrack. Community Shield. Trophy, who cares? But the game is an indicator because we have not beaten City in 8 straight games. We beat them in Community Shield, which I know they can claim all they want, they don't care, but they haven't won it like in a while. So there's no way they don't care. They played their starters. The only one who wasn't playing was KDB, and it's because he wasn't 100% fit.
They were not playing all of their starters. It was like more than KDB.
Like who?
Here, I'll look.
The only one was
Foden
him
didn't
that
start.
I noticed. Yes, but they
I know
also
he's
they're
like-
looking at signing Paqueta, so it looks like they just don't want to play him. Gavardiol didn't play, but they had just signed him.
I don't think they had announced him at that point.
Yeah. Well, I think
Also, Holland in this game registered 0 XG, which is important to note. Our defense has stepped it up.
it is also important to note that in a Premier League game, that's a draw.
I mean, yeah, we lost 2 games. We lost both times against them last year. I would have taken a draw.
True. I take your
The
point.
main one's just Kevin De Bruyne, Foden, and then Ederson.
Yeah, Ederson, it's hard to say how much he would have impacted the game. I actually think the rotational guy's pretty good.
Ortega, yeah, he's decent.
Yeah. KDB usually plays pretty good against us, so that one is a big miss. But he did play the second half of the game, so it's not like he was gone the whole time. And then Foden, I actually don't think he's going to start very much. They're now looking at, like I said, they're looking at signing Paqueta. For some reason, they just don't want to play him, it seems like. And I don't really understand, but
Yeah, he's in my fantasy team right now, and I think I should take him out.
But to my point, that's like almost all starters, and the ones who are missing are almost negligible. So it's like, I think it is a bit of an it is at least good for squad morale, because now they're thinking, you know, we have not beaten City in 8 straight games. We've now just beaten them to start the season. And like you said, Premier League game is a draw, but on paper this was a win.
I
Just
also
the way it was.
I take your point on that, but I also think you're not going to win or lose the league based on your 2 games against City, though. Like, you're going to win or lose the league based on the games against Southampton, where you drew 3-3, or Nottingham. Well, Nottingham Forest doesn't really count because it was the last day, but like,
Well, we talked about it last year. When you do all the math, assuming we win all those other games, assuming we still lose both games to City, we would have lost the league. So in some ways, those games could be the ones that make or break it.
no, I agree, but it goes both ways, right? Because if you lose those 2 games to City and then you beat Southampton, beat whoever, like,
Yeah.
you win the league.
This year, I
So-
don't think that's going to be much of an issue, to be completely honest. I think a big part of last year was Saliba's injury. I think had he stayed fit, we would have won the
True.
league. And I think now we have enough depth to cover that position.
I will say
That
you
was
said something about, sorry, Ethan, or just a quick point for me. You did say something earlier about the expectation being to win the league now. And I actually think that's a problem for the squad. Like, I think that's going to have a detrimental effect on their like mental state, because last season, the reason it was so good is because people like were hardly expecting y'all to finish in the top 4. Like, and y'all almost won the, well, yeah, like people were expecting, you know, 4th, 5th, that kind of range, and y'all almost won the league. So I think that aspect of it gave y'all an extra boost in the fact that it felt like this miracle run. Well, now it's the expectation. Like, can you do it season over season?
Yeah.
And I think the answer to that is yes, but I think it's going to prove more difficult this season to sustain a challenge for a long time than it did last season.
I would have agreed a year or 2 ago that the pressure was a bad thing, but I actually think the squad is to the point now where they are all so hungry to win that it's the phrase pressure makes diamonds. I really think that's going to come to fruition. I think the players are actually going to thrive under the pressure this year.
The one thing that I was considering when putting Arsenal second was more injuries, just because I know, didn't Jesus just get injured again?
Yes, but I'm actually not too worried because we have Havertz who can fill in there now, who I know goal scoring, but he offers that other thing I was talking about. We have Trossard, who's played there a few times and actually done pretty well. He played there last time Jesus got injured, and we have Nketiah, who I think has improved, has continued to improve. So I'm actually not too worried about the Jesus injury.
I think the other thing, that reason I put them second, is the Champions League. The massive step up from Europa League to Champions League, and the ability, or the lack of ability, to rotate your squad as much in Champions League games, I think is going to play a bigger impact on the squad than it has before. I think that was the biggest reason I put y'all second instead of first.
I think that's true. I'm going to have counterpoints for everything. My counterpoint to that would be that I really do think we've added so much depth this transfer window that I think I'm actually not too worried about rotating the squad for Champions League.
You have depth, but there's still like those key players still are going to have not only they're going to have similar amount of minutes that they did last season, but they're going to have exponentially more important minutes than they did before. Like the step up from Europa League to Champions League is going. I think it's going to make a massive difference.
My counterpoint is what happens if you lose your advanced 8? I think that,
Yeah.
I mean, because you have gotten rid of Xhaka, are going to get rid of Party, presumably, or at least he won't.
I think he's staying.
Really?
And we actually saw recently Party and Declan Rice play together.
Well,
that's
they
where
did
that-
in the Community Shield, right? So
and in the Monaco game, I believe, the Emirates Cup or whatever. Because that's what I was saying about the players who can play multiple positions. We either have this option where it's Declan Rice at 6, now Smith Rowe at advanced 8. That's an option. We've been playing him there in preseason. Declan Rice at 6, Havertz at advanced 8, Party at 6, Declan Rice at advanced 8. So there is different. There is actually depth for that position as well.
fair enough. I'm going to bring up another point, but I'm going to counterpoint myself, and you can add on to it, but I'm going to bring it up. I think one of the biggest areas that I'm actually concerned about this season for Arsenal is goal scoring, and not just because Jesus is injured and because I think Havertz can't hit the side of a barn door with a beach ball. I think one of Arsenal's biggest strengths last season was the fact that your goal scoring was so spread across so many different aspects, right? Like you had the first time in however many years that 3 players had 10 goals in the Premier League. I don't foresee that happening again. I think Odegaard is an insane creative force. I do not think he's going to have more than 10 goals again. I think Martinelli's production at the end of the season fell off a cliff. Like, I think there's no way he gets 10 goals.
He was actually injured.
I think Martinelli might get 10 goals again this season. I think Saka will definitely get 10 goals again this season. But so maybe I should retract my own point. But I do think that production, like Arsenal was scoring at an absurd rate, and I think that's going to slow down just by the nature of the law of averages. And I think it's good that there are goals like dispersed across the squad in all areas, but it's a double-edged sword because you don't have one guy that you can consistently rely on to put the ball in the back of the net. So again, counterpointing myself and the fact that I didn't know Martinelli was injured, but that's just another thing that went into my decision-making in terms of not having them win the league. And let me be clear. It is very close for me between Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. So I'm not saying Arsenal are going to be convincingly third. I'm saying they're going to be third, like in a title fight.
Yeah, I actually can see like everything y'all are saying. I've got to support. I've got to be on the train.
You have to. If it were Spurs in your position, I would be picking them to win the league all day long.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I guess the only team that we haven't really talked about, and we kind of have touched on them a little bit, if you don't have anything else about Arsenal, Reese, is City, which we obviously never talk about much, and we're probably not going to talk about them much again because who cares? In my opinion, they're going to win the league again. They brought in another great center back option in Gvardiol. Stones has had General John Stone has had a revitalization at center back and is now one of the best ball playing center backs in the world randomly. Ruben Diaz, of course, we know what he can do. There's infinite combinations you could do with the fullbacks because Pep doesn't even play fullbacks at fullback. He plays Rico Lewis at fullback and Kyle Walker at fullback and whoever else. So just so many different combinations that you can place in that area. And I just don't see them stumbling.
Yeah. The main point I would bring up, and it's something we kind of touched on, Ethan brought it up, was that they have lost Gundogan, and then I mentioned Mahrez. I think even if Mahrez wasn't starting, they have definitely stepped down in terms of depth in those two positions. Because right wing, we've got Bernardo Silva and who else? I don't even know.
But I guess Foden or I don't even know who would play on the
Alvarez
right side,
if they
really.
put him on the wing.
Yeah. Oh, Bernardo.
Center, that's who I said. Bernardo Silva.
Oh, you said Bernardo Silva.
That's what I mean. I think he'll start probably.
Yeah, him and Grealish will probably be the starting wingers.
Midfield, I thought Kovacic did not look very good against us in the Community Shield, and I know he has time to adjust, but I think he is just not the same level of player as Gundogan.
I think it's a weird signing.
I think it's weird. I think not only is he a step down, he is also lacking in the leadership qualities that Gundogan brought. So if anything was going to make them falter, it's that those two things, I think.
Yeah, I think the Gundogan thing is a big deal, right? It really is a big deal. Because not only is he a huge leadership guy, he also scored the goals that won them the league in the last however many. Like he's just Mr. Clutch all the time, and they don't have that now. I mean, people will fill the role, I'm sure, but one thing is if they sign Paquetá, then that makes me think Kovacic won't start. I don't rate Paquetá either, but if Pep does,
I think that's also weird.
Then maybe I'm not seeing it, but. Also, Calvin Phillips did not get to play because he was injured. And I also don't really rate Calvin Phillips. But if he gets game time, maybe he'll. Why did I pick City to finish first? The amount of things that I'm saying in their detriment now. It's like, but it's City. So, all right, Ethan. Sorry, I've interrupted you 1 million times this episode.
No, you're good. I was gonna mention, like you just said, like the signings, and they're probably going to sign some more players, so I think they will make up for some depth. But the leadership is huge, like you said, like with Gundogan.
I think also something that may come about, and this is a very big if because Pep is not one to stand for it, but we could, and this is kind of just theorizing, see a little bit of complacency because now the squad has won everything.
True. That's a good point, actually. I mean, I thought you were going to have a follow-up to that.
Yeah, that was it. They just may think of themselves a little untouchable and maybe, lose a couple points because of that.
All right. I think that covers our 1 through 20. We have made it. We are going to be posting those on social media. Of course, I'll make a graphic like I did last year. We will put those out. If you guys wouldn't mind sending me your list as well, so we can get that going. And then if anyone, in the comments, whenever that goes out, drop your predictions. Let us know where we went wrong. Let us know why I'm stupid for putting Newcastle in 8th and all that stuff. Let's move on from the Premier League, unless anyone has any final comments that they want to make about the season. We do, unfortunately, after last season's events, now have to extend our coverage into the championship for Josh because Leicester are in the championship this season. However, things have gotten off to a good start for them already. Some good transfer business, a win at the weekend, a win today. So, Josh, walk us through. Are you optimistic? Do you think, the big question is, are y'all coming back up? That's the big question.
I think so. I think we're going to finish at minimum top 2, if not win the whole thing, just based on the chunk of just the first 2 games alone. We have looked. I think we would have beat last year's Leicester easily. I'm kind of getting into the tactics a little bit because it was completely different, and like seeing a manager who is like extremely passionate when things go great. And when they're just going poorly is I think it's going to be very good. So I think possession, which makes sense, is going to be like the key role for us this season, just because like he's coming from Pep system and it relies on you controlling and being able to flow the ball the way you want it to, which we had a little bit of issues against with Coventry, but I think that comes from players being in the new system. So when we were going forward, it was like a 3-2-2-3, which was very interesting with like the back 3 staying back and then Pereira like pushing extremely far up and then the left back staying back a little bit. But the back ended up because the new keeper, he's a sweeper keeper. So Hermanson can essentially just be a 4th center back, and at least in the build-up. So there were many times where Faze and Vestergaard and Doyle were passing back to him. But we're also Connor Cody was out, so I expect him to replace Vestergaard, and that's an amazing back 3 for championship level if we can keep all of them there. But the build-up, a lot of the playing the balls in the space and allowing people to run onto them or run with them and run against the defenders and taking them on one-on-one and getting to the outside of the fullbacks versus last year. Like I've already kind of touched on, Harvey Barnes is an inverted winger, and that is about it. He's a really good inverted winger, but that's about the only thing he can do. So just stylistically, it was completely different, and just like the passion behind it. And Didi was like an advanced CD center mid, which was really weird to see him push that far. He kind of played the role that Tielemans played for us at times the past few seasons. But yeah, just good. We got lucky that Coventry didn't finish, but also had some great saves. I'm looking forward to the season. I'm cautiously optimistic going forward.
I wanted to point out a couple of the other signings too and get your take on them as well. Firstly, for my own personal interest, of course, is Harry Winks, who I actually think is a good signing. I think
he was great. He was great in the game. Him and Dewsbury Hall together were amazing, and they helped run the midfield. They both looked great together.
They are I would say they're very similar players too. They're stylistically, they have a lot in common. I think Dewsbury Hall is obviously more forward thinking, I think, as seen by the fact that he scored both goals against Coventry. But I think they both have that ability to kind of spray passes out from the center of the pitch. So, and then Steffi Mavididi, of course.
Signing, he was amazing. He was great. Him and McAteer both were great in the game. The way they just like pushed forward and were able to attack the outside of the fullbacks just added an extra layer going forward that we have not had in a very long time under Brendan Rodgers. So I think he was amazing and played great.
And, you get that kind of additional bonus, which we've seen only come to fruition one time so far, but that Man City connection that you have through Maresca, he's got some contacts. So, of course, you managed to get Callum Doyle on loan. Maybe in the future you could see a couple more City youngsters come through the door, which is always a nice thing to see. So
I think Palace are loaning one of our good youngsters to y'all, Raksaki. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have not seen it.
He was great with Charlton, I guess, last season.
One of the big ones right now have been Caseta.
Yeah.
Or Caseta. I don't know how to say his name. Caseta. I think it's Casadi,
I know.
Italian guy from Chelsea.
Yeah.
Cassadai.
Cassadai.
Yeah. He's linked to come in. I think he would be a great addition to the midfield and add an extra layer that we need for the run of the season.
All right. Good to see. I of course, all of us, I think, will be rooting for Leicester to come back up. We'd love to see them in the Prem again next season. So very hopeful for that. And another thing is it means Vardy's going to play consistently again, which I actually like just because I think it's nice to see him playing. So
I have one more football thing to add before we get to the assorted different things. So the Champions League is having their qualifying rounds, which is like one of my favorite times of the year.
I think I know what you're going to say, actually.
I think it's like a pretty huge thing. I'm not even going to attempt to say the club's name because they're a Nordic club and fuck it. Not going to happen. But the Faroe Islands champion, I'm going to Klaksvikar Itroterferleg. I think I got the first one right. But so they had to play all the way from the first round of qualifying. And who'd they beat the first round? They beat the Hungarian champion.
Ferencváros.
Yeah. And then they went and they beat another Swedish team. So they're making their way through the Nordics right now. And they beat Molde 2-1 in the Faroe Islands that was yesterday. And they have the second leg on the 15th. So there's a chance. But there's also a chance they might have to play like Young Boys or Antwerp and they might just get smashed. So I would go crazy if there was a Faroe Islands team in the Champions League. That would be amazing.
That would be incredible.
And the Women's World Cup is happening right now. So maybe go watch it. The U.S. women looked awful until they played Sweden, and the Sweden goal was crazy. And then a 1 millimeter save, no save.
Yeah, they're just kind of in a turnover right now because all of their best players have
I
aged.
don't think they're in a turnover. I think they played extremely lackadaisical because against Sweden they looked amazing like they did in the last World Cups. I think they just
I
played
don't know, man.
lazily.
Their squad's quite a bit different, and their captain was injured.
They're quite a bit different, but they're also like some of the best players in one of the best leagues in the world. I think that they went in extremely lackadaisical, and it showed because they dominated Sweden. And if the Sweden goalie didn't make like 11 saves, they would have smashed them.
Just looking up the name of the Faroe Islands team because I wanted to try to pronounce it.
Dude, it's miserable.
Klaksvikar i
Why?
Trottarfelag.
SpongeBob.
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 Which
Okay.
Faroe Islands, like depending on who you ask, is like not even a country.
No, I mean it's literally not recognized by the UN as an independent country. It's technically property of Denmark. So
Yeah, it's so funny.
all right, let's get to the random assorteds that Josh was talking about. I'm gonna start with Ethan. We're gonna start with Ethan for album of the week. As I mentioned, he is the record ruminator, the final vindicator. So it's time to ruminate and vindicate, Ethan.
So, I might have already recommended this one in the podcast. I have lost track of what all I have done so far. But, Premier League back, just in a few days. Let's get it on. Marvin Gaye, let's get it on. Premier League is back, baby. I'm feeling lovey-dovey about it. It's hard not to fall in love with the beautiful game. I'm a big Marvin Gaye fan, for those who don't know. Soul is like my Josh. Soul is like one of my slept on genres. Well, not slept on, but like it's one that I love personally that I don't really talk about too much. It's really good. I recently on Spotify made like a top 10 songs of mine a long time ago, and I just updated it, and one or two of these songs fell on that top 10. It's funny, the last song, Just to Keep You Satisfied, I like listened to it and I'm like, I feel like I just went through like a whole breakup just within the span of 4 minutes. So it's a great album, and it's very lovey-dovey. So yeah, let's get it on. Let's get on Premier League.
All right, Josh. I don't know how many jerseys you have with you, but if you do have jersey of the week, now is the time. Although it looks like he might be.
He's froze.
Oh, he's
back.
unfrozen.
No,
Okay.
He's back.
Please, all
Do
right,
you
so
have
I
a
have
jersey?
three things. So the first one was my birthday gift from my wife, who got me a jersey. So we're moving, and it's kind of like being in Texas. It's like everything is so far away, and where we're moving, like we're really close to a bunch of places. One of the places that's kind of close, not super close, but kind of close enough, and I have family friends who are massive Auburn fans. She was going to get me football tickets to go to a game, but I was like, why don't we wait on that? Because like we had already planned on it and just get me something else. So she ended up getting me an Auburn baseball jersey, which is like very cool. I love off white, and it's an off white, and it's got a little like Auburn patch on the side. And it's just a cool jersey. The second thing, I'm not a big hat guy normally, I'm especially not a big flat bill, but if I can get the bill curved right, I don't mind them. And the Louisville Bats are so. For those of you who don't know, minor league baseball in America, it's really weird. Like they do a lot of like gimmicks, and they change their names all the time. Well, Louisville, where the Kentucky Derby is, the Bats changed to the Derby City Mint Juleps. And the mint julep is like a signature cocktail. It's like bourbon, simple syrup, and mint. And they are the mint juleps, and this hat is amazing.
That is a sick ass hat. I love that.
That's dope.
It was a flat bill, and then I'm like slowly trying to curve it because like my head and flat bills don't agree with each other.
Put it on. Put it on.
Put it on.
Yeah, he plays baseball.
Just makes my enormous head look even larger.
Yeah, you said it, not me.
My wife hates it, so that's the fun part. And then, so I went to a Cincinnati Reds game, and I got one of their City Connect jerseys, which it is
so nice.
so nice. Like the shoulder patch is amazing, like the sleeve. There's like a little like phrase from like when the city was founded. I got Jonathan India on the back, but
Nice.
it is just like Amazing jersey, like one of the best City Connects that the MLB. It's like the big alternate thing that they've come out with. But
Yeah.
Founder of
that's
India.
all I got.
Yeah,
Jonathan
I,
India, founder
Jonathan
of India.
I'm jealous actually because I've been kind of the baseball jersey man because I feel like every time I get new clothes, it's always ready for the new season. So I've been buying a lot of short sleeve stuff, a lot of jerseys, and I have the Kansas City Royals City Connect jersey. I'm not gonna go get it, but I got it for cheap, and it's just they're really cool that they're doing that,
Yeah, I
giving
like
away
it.
merchandise. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Colorado one. That one looks awesome.
I like the Colorado one. The Seattle one was really good, like a super dark navy with the really bright yellow with the black accents was amazing.
Yeah. So
Also, shout out
awesome.
to Auburn because my girlfriend went to Auburn, so it's kind of nice timing by you to bring out the Auburn jersey. So, yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think after that, it is officially time to wrap it up. I don't think we quite made it to 3 hours, but we were very, very close. An absolute monolith of an episode. Maybe our longest ever. I'll have to check in on that after I'm finished editing. We'll see. But we are beyond excited for season 5 and the ensuing Premier League season as well. We've got lots of exciting things on the way. I talked about them earlier in the episode. So, of course, stay tuned with us. Follow us on social media at SLAPcast, all the good stuff. Don't forget to tune in next week. Of course, we'll be covering opening weekend, and I'm sure our coverage will be absolutely unrivaled, as is per usual. A big thanks to the fellas for jumping on once again for our 5th endeavor into a new season. I can't believe it's going to be 5 years that we've been doing this. It's been a crazy, it's been a very enjoyable ride. Lots of cool things that we've done over the 5 years. So glad to see it's still going. I'm going to start by thanking the fellas with the birthday boy. Josh, thanks for spending the night of your birthday with us in spite of the fact that you could be doing other things, but we appreciate it.
I would not want to spend it with any more, well, anybody but my wife. I would not.
We get what you mean. We get what you mean without getting out of trouble or getting in trouble.
I had to think about it for a second, but no, I would not another group of friends. I would rather spend the time with.
And gonna try not to cry about that, and then move on to Reese. Thank you, Reese, for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be back. Thank you for once again being a host and preparing so much, 8 pages of notes and having all the alliterations ready to go.
And of course, we'll move on to Ethan as well. Big thanks to have you back for season. That doesn't make sense. Big thanks for coming back for season 5.
I've got to see if I could fit it in my schedule, but
yeah.
No, I'm excited. I'm really excited for football to be back. I think it's going to be a great season for the Premier League and the podcast. And like Reese said, we thank you for all the research you put into it because you praise us a lot, but we need to praise you more because you do contribute a lot to the furthering of this podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I really like to just, do it to have something in common, have a reason to talk to you guys, and have all these great listeners who are no doubt listening at this time. So a big thanks to them as well for sticking it out with us. We really appreciate it. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any suggestions, all that good stuff. With that, it comes to an end. So we love you all. We want to say a big thanks for listening. We hope you enjoy the Premier League. And that's a goodbye from us.